Okay, test. Looks like it's coming through, I think. Getting set up here. Ready to go in just hands up. Let's try transitioning to window. Yep, seems to be working okay. And I want to bring over the comment from last time as well. Let me just go grab that. And I think it'd be nice to try to address that. Start off with. So that would be over here and over there. Okay, I think I'm just about ready to get started. And yeah, everything is looking okay on the OBS side of things, so let's get started. Oh, sweet, we got people in chat already. Hey, everybody, how's it going? Hi, Kakuzu and Holidays. Everybody's assembled. Yep. Hi, Howard. How are you doing? Hope you're doing okay too. Yeah, I have had a pretty good holiday. Things have been pretty calm for the most part, but as you know, as I'm sure you know, there's always a little bit of chaos, especially with family showing up and whatnot, trying to get the house ready and all that stuff. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Kakasu. It's like I'm actually talking to Kakasu here. Sorry to hear that. Did you have an injury or anything, or do you have chronic back pain? That really sucks if you have to deal with that. Um, is there any have you tried doing any PT for it? If so, I had an injury a few years ago, and doing a little bit of stretching every now and then was helpful for it. Although it doesn't make the pain all go away. Yep, I feel you. Getting your bearings. I'm gonna be starting like working a lot of overtime for the next 3 or 4 weeks, so I'm trying to like just chill tonight and just enjoy what little time that I have left. Do you have anything like intense coming up? Do you have like a new project or anything new in your life that you're looking forward to, or is it just kind of like getting back to work, getting back to business as usual? Um, yep. Yeah, I'm getting up there too, so I feel you. I hope it doesn't get any worse. I hope it gets better. As a matter of fact, classes and job interviews starting tomorrow. Well, that's exciting. That's a lot. Are you are you kind of just like do you already have like a specific thing that you're targeting? Like you're hoping to get a specific job, or are you starting like to get out there and beat the pavement, so to speak? Oh, that's cool. Working in warehouses. That I imagine that could be pretty stressful, but also a lot of fun getting to work around like the machinery and whatnot. Um, Hopefully you're more excited than than stressed. I know that going through the whole process of sending out your resumes and putting yourself out there and having to deal with all that, that's a lot, especially right after the holidays, right? Um, Annoying, yeah. Yeah, and it's like what can you do about it, right? Like the pain shows up and then it's just there with you. So yeah, good luck. You just kind of have to deal with it, right? It sucks. Sorry to hear that. Part-time flexible. Well, that much is good, right? That gives you time to maybe you're doing classes and job stuff at the same time, so hopefully that'll give you some flexibility to, kind of focus on like whatever like your classes and whatever work comes out of that without having to like have work totally dominate your life. That's good. Developments on gaming and fixing stuff up around the place. Cool. Oh, are you saying that you're working in game development, like you're building a game or something like that? That's cool. Yeah, I'm kind of going through something vaguely similar in that we moved into a new house a few months ago, and everything seemed fine, but then we found mold in the basement, and so we had to like rip everything out, rip out the walls, just like move all the stuff out of the basement, excuse me. So it's been yeah, I can definitely feel your pain regarding having to deal with house maintenance stuff. Oh, streaming, that's awesome. Yeah, well, as I'd be curious if you have any thoughts about like how streaming has been for you. Are you streaming any particular games? Are you like looking to do a variety stream, something like that? I'd be happy to stop by and check it out for sure. Um, excuse me. Good. Yeah, but I need to make it in. But yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Are you thinking that you're gonna just like try to upgrade it piece by piece and do your own like custom build, or are you thinking would you rather like just get a pre-assembled one, something like that? I did. I had a bunch of friends tell me the last time I upgraded my PC. that I should just build it myself with assembled components, but I wasn't confident enough at the time to do that myself. So I wound up, well, I guess I should say I just like didn't take the time to research everything. I wanted something that was like halfway there. So I went with was it I Buy Power at the time, because they have like a pre-built template that lets, and then they let you like customize on top of that. So it kind of got me to like 80% of what I wanted, and then I changed like a couple components. Like I didn't need the graphics card to be insane or whatever, so I just like kind of stepped it down a little, and that worked out. Um, yeah, I'm in North America currently at the moment. Are you guys in the States as well? Streaming mostly. Oh, DMC Devil May Cry. That's cool. I'm very. Oh, cool. Very very cool. Yeah, rebuilt is ideal. Yeah. Man, I would be curious if you what you think of DMC Devil May Cry, the one that was like the remake by the other like the non Capcom studio. I remember enjoying it when that first came out, but I also remember people being really upset that they were going like an edgier direction with it. So I don't know. I think it kind of stands on its own, but I could definitely see why people would not be a fan of it if they were expecting like a true sequel. Um, oh, the reboot, yeah, cool, cool. Yeah, I try I tried to get into what the most recent one that came out, the one where was it Dante is like dancing the Michael Jackson dance with a hat and everything, and it was a little too much for me, just like the level of insanity. I guess I'm getting old. I probably would have like really loved that a few years ago. But man, the combat is so slick, the animations are so fluid. Like it's got to be one of the best like feeling action games out there, right? Dialer player in the reboot community. Oh, DMC5. Yeah, gotcha. Cool, cool. Yeah. You know, it's been fun to see how many how many like overlapping interests and passions there are for folks that have been in the Naruto community. I feel like it kind of is like this common ground, like a no man's land that kind of pulls in a bunch of different people from different fandoms and whatnot. That kind of overlaps with it, if that makes sense. Which is kind of cool. It kind of makes sense. You know, Naruto as a character in the series kind of does that too, right? Like he like reaches out to different people from different walks of life and whatnot, and finds a way to connect with them, which is always kind of funny. I know that debates can get heated, and that's totally fine. Like people get very passionate. It's understandable. It's always kind of funny though, ironic that sometimes the debates get like so heated and people get like so at each other's throats over a series that's kind of peaceful in its overall messaging. It's kind of like it's a little savvy, but it's kind of about like friendship and love and understanding, conquering cycles of violence and all that stuff. And then you get people just like hating each other so much over some of this stuff. Um, yeah, that's true. Like I guess the culture is always changing too, right? It's always something that's always in motion. Um, and I don't know. I'd be curious if you guys have thoughts about how the culture and the fandom has changed, because I feel like there's been different waves of people with different views on the series that kind of come and go over the years. Like when I feel like Kage probably helped inject some interest into this series a few years ago. Was it 7 or 6 or 7 years ago? And then NC Hammer kind of came in, and like folks like him had more of a like active, almost like frenetic, not in a bad sense, but like their style of making videos is much more like I guess like TikTok friendly and easily like made into shorts, and then that kind of appeal to a different crowd of people. Um, so it's been cool to see the different ways that people generate content, and then with debates as well becoming. I don't remember seeing many before, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. All these different ways of trying to interact with the content, if that makes sense. Uh, yeah, for sure, for sure. The irony is there. People trying to, yes, yeah. So that's something that I actually have a lot of respect for, if people can do between universe scaling effectively, because frankly, like Naruto's not. It is a complicated series. It's got a complicated magic system. It's 700 chapters long, but really the complication just comes from like um how quickly things expand. Like here we go. We got like Lee in chapter 51, and he's just like trying to catch leaves before they fall. And now jumping ahead to uh chapter 639, I was gonna talk about like the tandem paper bombs that Tobirama uses, and now we have like a mutually self-replicating like chain of explosions that are just like causing this massive, earth-shattering event. So the complication comes from just how quickly and how dramatically the power creep happens, but it's still a relatively, simple series. You can draw connections between characters fairly easily. But then porting this stuff over, like doing I don't know. I was watching like Ranma, and I was going back and like looking at Shaman King a while ago and trying to figure out like, okay, how could I possibly connect these characters in a fair way? Like, how can you power scale even like early Genin in this universe to characters in that, or like in Dragon Die or something like that, early Dragon Ball. Um, and it's challenging. It's challenging, especially if you want to try to be as objective as possible. So I have a lot of appreciation for people who can do that effectively. Um, Chip it in to show rust, unfortunately, at least to me. Yeah, I do. I think so. Going back to like part one, and thinking about the ways that characters are introduced in the tuning exams and all that, we have a lot of characters that are introduced very, very quickly. So let's go back a couple of chapters actually, but I want to keep this one open. Um, so we have a lot of characters that are introduced very quickly, but each of them are kind of given like a little bit of an introduction and then allowed to sit for a minute, and then we get to grow some anticipation about you know, imagining what they're going to be like, what their characteristics are going to be like, and all that. And then we slowly get to know them and get to know their abilities, and they're all like very clearly well differentiated. Like look at the introduction of is this where we first see Gara, or is it? Oh yeah, here we go. So like the introduction of these two characters on their own, and then the way that Gara comes in, he's like upside down, kind of seems to suggest that his perspective is inverted, or he's just like looking down on everybody, right? We have all these little character moments, his interaction with Sasuke up here. There are a lot of new characters that we meet, even the Genin from Konoha, like Lee and stuff like that. I don't think we've seen before here. But they each get room to breathe, and then they get like slowly developed over the course of a few chapters. Compare that to like the beginning of Shippuden, where we have all of these different teams from all of these different villages, and they're all converging, and they all have like different gimmicks and stuff. And it's, I don't personally feel like I get to spend the time getting to know them nearly as well. Now, characters like, I don't know, Darui and like Samui and Atsui are still compelling characters, but I want a little bit more time. I don't want them to be as rushed. I want to, give them their own moment to shine. I guess Darui kind of gets that with the Kin and Gin fight, but it does feel a little bit rushed getting there, doesn't it? Let's see. Sorry, I missed a couple comments here. In year one, half the Akatsuki dies, while they were shown as the menace from part one, kind of anticlimactic. Oh, you mean, yeah, you mean in the like first part of Shippuden, like how quickly the Akatsuki members are just brought in and then immediately killed off. Yeah, I think I was talking about this a little bit last time, that it can be kind of unfortunate that a lot of the Akatsuki members seem to be introduced just to kind of like talk about a concept. Like Deidara kind of shows up, and then he's kind of used to introduce us all to the concept of the Akatsuki as a whole. Um, I guess that's not as true for Hidan, but then like what's his name? Kakuzu, sorry. Kakuzu, he has his own character, he's doing his own thing, but he's also kind of introduced along with all the stuff about like nature transformations and whatnot that Naruto is actively learning like right before this fight. And so it feels like on the one hand you could say it's like thematically connected and it's well designed. I would probably agree with that. But on the other hand, like he once Kishimoto is done teaching us the lesson about nature transformations, then he can get rid of Kakuzu, right? Because he served his purpose in a way. So that being said, I don't envy Kishimoto. He was obviously like juggling a lot of stuff and obviously under a lot of pressure from the higher ups to, deliver content very, very quickly. So I think he did very well, all things considering. But also, a lot of concepts, a lot of characters are introduced and then just kind of like cycle through pretty quickly. Let's see. In your, yeah, Paper bombs are crazy in scaling. The low end has it damaging tuning level combatants when off guarded. Yeah, and the high end has implications of the Kage level combatants, possibly either taking heavy damage or even death. Yeah, so I'm part of what I want to do this stream is I want to talk about paper bombs across the series, and you can see I've pulled up like a few chapters with examples of letter bombs. This is from the Sound 4 fight. This one is during the Gara fight, and then I have Conan's feet over here. I have the Jubito thing as well. And I would like to talk about all that stuff. I think I have an idea of how they're meant to be used, but I will agree that the scaling can be a little tricky to figure out. So I'd be more than happy to hear any comments or feedback on what you think, either in response to what I have to say, or if you just want to like go ahead and kind of preempt that by like tell me more about like how you think they do against certain characters or whatnot. I'd be happy to hear that. Kakuzu says the Zabuza arc is to me the best introduction. Yeah, I actually I feel like it's the edgy boomer thing to say, but I honestly kind of feel like the Land of Waves arc is probably my favorite arc, or at least like the Zabuza fight and the way that that escalates, because not I don't mind like the giant power cliff what's the term for it, like power escalation battles later in the series. I really don't. I think it's fun, but at the same time, like everything here is just so grounded. It feels so everyone feels so vulnerable. Everyone feels so like lives are on the line and like anything can change at a moment's notice. Um it feels gritty. It feels like this is actually a story about shinobi, right? This is a story about hired assassins that are they have a code of conduct and everything, but they are out to kill each other first and foremost. They're trained to kill, and it's brutal but it is also like very emotional. There's so much that kind of goes into a fight like this, and it just happens on a fucking bridge. Like the scale of it is really really small. There's not a whole lot of different abilities that gets used, but the ones that get used are so iconic and they're given time to shine. um I don't know, it's just it's hard to top this, and I feel like once Gamabunta shows up, th- that's not it's not like a nail in a coffin, so to speak, but now you've crossed into a threshold where okay, you can like even low level ninja can have like giant monsters essentially at their beck and call. That sets a precedent that over the next 15 years or whatever, things are going to get crazy, and it's okay. But this is almost a different series, right? This is a demigod with who's immune to all damage except for one specific type, and he's got these orbs that can kill anything and break through anything, can nullify jutsu. This guy is like he looks like he's if you don't know the series, this guy looks like he's made of energy or something. It's a very different feel, very different vibe. Not dunking on the later series. I love the whole series all the way through, but it feels like tangibly different, if you know what I mean. Um, it's fine. Nature transformation plus Russian shuriken experimentation. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I think it is really cool to see those two things in parallel. I think it's well designed. It's good storytelling. It's just that well, you know what? I'm gonna challenge what I said, because here we have Haku and Zabuza, and they're only here for a little while, and then they're not really referenced very often. Haku's referenced like once, when they're talking about Kekkei Genkai. It's sometime in like one of these chapters. I think it's maybe 10 chapters before this or something. Kakashi is saying that you can combine different elements together, but you can't like um do a Kekkei Genkai unless you have a like the genetics for it or something like that, right? So he's still relevant in the story, but the characters are introduced and then they die. It's just I guess I feel like their emotional connection to Haku and the way that Haku kind of challenges Naruto's worldview and also helps him like sober up a little bit about the what it means to be a ninja, that does stay with the characters, and there is some real growth and real impact, even though they don't like reference it verbally every single day, right? Um, I don't. Okay, so Kakuzu says I don't like Shippuden since the Edo Hokage's comeback. Interesting. So I'd be curious to hear more about that. Is it the Edo Hokage themselves themselves, like those four characters, or are you saying that like after that point in time, the rest of it just happens to be um not so good? Would you prefer it if the Edo Hokage themselves were not included? Um, the Howard says, I mean, that was just to get to get a group of elites around to help Naruto get back into the fight. Yeah, you mean with the Hokage coming out? Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I will say that as a fan of characters like Tobirama and Minato, if they were going to do the whole bringing characters back from the dead thing, I'm glad we got to see those characters because we didn't get to spend that much time with them, and they are cool. And also, I actually really like the idea, like bringing Asuma back and making the like Team Asuma fight him and stuff like that. Going through all of this, like everything that these characters went through, or even better, when Naruto goes through the entire emotional arc that he does with Pain, and then reconciling him with him, and then Pain like sacrificing himself, and then what's his name, Kabuto just brings him back from the dead after all that, and after Sasuke goes through everything he does with Itachi and Kabuto just brings him back, it's like it feels so cold-blooded and so disrespectful and like disgusting. Like you've had this emotional connection with somebody, you've put your lives on the line with that person, and it's changed you and it's changed them, and then you got the resolution, and then Kabuto just pulls that all back and says, "No, I'm going to subvert this for my own like evil purposes." That I think is a really powerful plot device, but also like having an army of zombies that just constantly regenerate. I mean, it does change things a lot. It makes all of these fights like more and more fantasy and move further and further away from like the grounded kind of gritty samurai slash ninja story. Let's see. I love the first part of the war, but when they arrive, the power scaling goes burr. Yeah, power scaling go burr, and it goes right off the topic. Yep, that's fair. KCM Minato doesn't make sense for scaling. Yeah, I mean, like, I that's another. So that's like sort of the other side of the coin, right? Is that Naruto goes through everything he does with Kurama for however many years, and then finally, through his courage and his resilience, and through his like desire to make friends with people despite their differences, he wins Kurama over, and they become genuine friends. Meanwhile, and this is something that I was thinking about recently. Meanwhile, isn't Minato and Kurama supposed to be in the belly of the Reaper, like constantly like writhing around in his stomach acids and fighting and hating each other? I thought I actually had this up. Yeah, so let's look at what Hiruzen says when he does the Reaper Death Seal, assuming that it works the same way for both of these characters. I would assume so because they're just summoning the Reaper. Um, but I believe he says something like that, right? And so while Naruto achieves KCM through this extended lifelong evolution as a person and working with Kurama to find common ground and all that, um, Minato just kind of like gets it for free, I guess, as a zombie, and it's really cool. It makes for some really beautiful moments, right? It's really amazing to see. I think I might have skipped over it. Where does he see this? Um, oh, here we go. One sec. Oh yeah, so this is interesting. So I think these are meant to be Tobirama over here, Hashirama maybe, although I don't know what these like whisker type things are. And then this is was this meant to be Minato and Hiruzen? And it's just like their designs are different, or are these supposed to be other characters? I'm not sure. Obviously some of this was probably retconned, right? Um, where does he actually say it? I'm sorry, I'm failing to locate the actual um part where he says like we're gonna writhe around in hatred and fight each other forever. But the point is, yeah, like I don't see that it was as earned. It does allow for Minato and oh, also that I fucking I love this, like the zoom out here, all the detail and all the grit and dirt on this bug, and it seems like this giant monster. and then you zoom out and you realize Shino has just like an entire like colony of these at his disposal. It's such a great sequence there. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling, but hopefully you see what I mean. Like, we get to see Minato do some awesome stuff with his son, and also it comes at, like, the price we have to pay for that is he just gets a free KCM, and he doesn't have to go through any of the stuff that Naruto did. And he should, I think he should basically be insane, and he should, all the Hokage should be, right? Like, they just spent however long like writhing around in eternal torment for years and years and years, and they just come out and they're like fine, right? It's a little bit weird. um okay, so I rambled for a little bit there. Let me get back to some comments. Kakuzu and Holiday says, I have 2 points. The Reaper seal was created by the old Uzumaki guy, way older than Hashirama, and used this technique before. Why cutting his belly and sacrificing 4 Zetsus? Yeah, that is a little weird, right? Like, it's the Zetsus themselves. I mean, imagine like if Orochimaru, when he summoned Manda, and Manda was like, "Okay, you gotta give me 100 human sacrifices now." Just gave him like 100 white Zetsus. Like, do you think you think Manda would be satisfied with that? The point is that you need to sacrifice a living person. It's not just because it's like you need like real human meat or whatever. It's the act of sacrifice that you're like giving up something to this deity, and that's something that I think is paralleled in a lot of real world religions and mythologies and stuff like that. I think that makes sense, right? So in a sense, like giving the Reaper just 4 Zetsus is almost like disrespectful. And I feel like if the Reaper were given more of a personality and more lore, maybe that would backfire. They'd have to like argue with him to get the souls back or something. Um, okay, and then felt like the jutsu is ruined while it was so a figure as a sealing jutsu. That was my first point. Oh yeah, so you're saying that like it was meant to be a seal and it was meant to be like this permanent thing, and then it just kind of gets like thrown away. Am I understanding correctly? It did kind of feel like it got reduced in seriousness, if that makes sense. Um, oh yeah, so well that goes even further, right? If if the chakra of the Nine Tails is supposed to increase in intensity with hatred that grows over time, then I guess the fact that they were, spending eternity, well, at least up until that point, spending all that time in the belly of the Reaper, should have increased like that version of Kurama's hatred, and I think we should see that. But the first time we see that version of Kurama, isn't it like he's just kind of hanging out and doing like the chakra making pose, and he's like, excuse me, could I please borrow a cup of your chakra to the other half? And he's just like so cute and polite. It feels a little weird. Let's see. uh so Minato had the very bright, yeah, unless it's an ethereal realm. Yeah, ethereal realms actually is something that I'd like to get into at some point. I need to do more research, but like there's the what I hear people call the mental scape. I don't know if that's the right term for it, but there's the place where Naruto kind of meets Kurama and talks to him there, and Sasuke can get in there. There's the mental realm, or whatever you want to call it, where Naruto and Sasuke have their conversation when they clash fists. There's the place in the sanctuary where Naruto trains with B. There's all these different uses of ethereal spaces, or like pocket dimensions or whatnot. And I know that some people then use that to try and talk about what do you call it? Like Naruto being multiversal and stuff like that, which I, like, spoiler alert, like I do not, I do not agree with all that. But that's okay. I think I could comment on that more intelligently if I actually like took the time to look at through those spaces. But yeah, there are like, and Kamui is another one, right? Like characters are able to create ethereal or pocket spaces or something, like manipulate space in interesting ways, which is where the series strays a bit more into magic, I guess. Um, but I don't know, even that still feels fairly grounded. Um, so let's see. I would just summarize Minato's KCM variants to be an initial form Naruto had at the Waterfall of Truth, and with Kurama helping him, can use a Biju avatar form like Naruto, but not constant. Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. So like he's able to, because of the circumstances, he's kind of able to access like a version of it that's appropriate to like their own circumstances, to repeat myself, I guess, but it's not quite the same as what Naruto went through. Like, he has a better, stronger, more tangible version of it because of what he went through. And then the other half of Kurama's like, okay, fuck, I'll play along because I'm here, and just kind of like lets Minato get away with it, something like that. Um, that would make sense, yeah. But the fact, how does he select the souls in the? Yeah, that's a good point, Kakuzu. It's like it's almost as if I wonder if it's more like he's summoning them specifically, and the Reaper like just releases the ones that he's summoning. I'll have to look at that in a moment. I wanted to see if I could find the no, I'm just like not gonna find it tonight. Sorry. I'll try to see if I can find that quote later. But that would be. Hmm, be curious if you happen to know offhand like what chapter that's from. If not, I think it would probably be like what, something around like 580. It's after Naruto gets KCM, I think. Yeah, oh right, it's right after this fight because then Sasuke goes um and resurrects them. That's the problem. I know I've whined about this so much that like it's difficult to find things because there's, until I have it memorized, I guess, because of how integrated a lot of these stories are. You know, they keep kind of switching focus back and forth. Oh, by the way, also, despite all the chaos and all the insanity of the war arc, you get moments like these, and these are just like, this is so good. Such a great moment for these two characters after everything they went through. The little head poke thing too, the way that that's used and reincorporated over the course of the series, and then he just like actually embraces him after, you know, if you like were reading these chapters as they came out, or just like, you know, once a month or whatever, um finally getting to see this happen after so many years is just like the best feeling in the world. It's so good. um let's see what the comments say here. Summarize half the. Oh, oh, okay. That would make sense. If Minato does have the nice half, then it would make sense, I guess, that he's a little bit more complacent. Especially if like splitting them up made the other half like even more nice than base Kurama, like 100% Kurama, would be. Then that makes sense. That's a better way of explaining it, I guess. What was the bad part? Did that on purpose. Nicer version of Kurama, the yin and the yang form. Yeah, I'd have to go back and look that up. I'm honestly not 100% sure. Um, you can also see their pupils changing when they have Kurama contribute to KCM. Oh yeah, that's a good point. I love the way that they use pupils to kind of portray different power states, like um both in terms of the Kekkei Genkai and the ocular abilities that the characters have, but also just like when Naruto is actually, this one I should be able to find pretty easily, because it's right at the beginning of this, I think. Yeah, Naruto's in Sage mode, and then he gets like pissed at yeah, he gets pissed at Nagato, and you see his eyes like have both the Sage mode like horizontal pupils and then the QB vertical pupils. And I think this is something that Kurama then mentions later in the war when he's like, you could probably use Sage mode on the KCM cloak or something like that. So, and also I can't remember where it is, but there's another. Is it in? Okay, wait. I think when Naruto is fighting what's his name, Orochimaru on the bridge, which would happen back in like early 200s. There's also a really awesome panel where you see Naruto's eyes kind of paralleled along with Orochimaru's, and of course I'm not gonna find it now. Um, yeah, too much going on. So I'll look this up later. But there is a gotta watch out for the sus panels. Um, there's this really cool moment when Naruto is like fighting Orochimaru on the bridge, and you see like as Naruto's like KC QB chakra is coming out, he gets like those vertical eye slits, and then that's directly paralleled with Orochimaru as well. I'm actually gonna see if I can pull that up in a second window while I'm still answering stuff because I used to have a bit of notes that would help me find this stuff. And let me look at another comment in the meantime. In the beginning of the Gano when he summons the Edo Hokage, yeah. There's a mention of Minato since the third coffin. Yeah, good point. And I think a lot of people look at that too, and they're like, they use that to kind of scale Minato above the other Kage, right? Because they're like, oh, Hiruzen says, I absolutely cannot let that third one, open up. Let's see. I'm just gonna look the side. Orochimaru says he has no blood on him. Yep. Okay, so I think it might be. Uh, yes. Okay, this is Orochimaru taking over Sasuke's body. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I guess I don't want to take up too much time like looking for that one specific panel. Because as much as I really enjoy that like thematically, like I said, I don't want to like waste too much time just scavenging around for it. But it does kind of go back to that thing that I mentioned before about Kishimoto creating like really compelling um parallels between different characters um without like explicitly spelling out like, hey, this character is like this other one. It's just like using visual motifs like the ocular like revealing the eyes and stuff like that. Oh yeah, back in the days, I think Anko such a thing was happening to the village. Yeah, that makes sense. I think he was kind of played up to be like kind of a god, right? Like almost an insane level. Maybe I'm a little biased by some of the videos that I've seen, but you know, it's like Swag Kage has that video that's just like flee on sight or whatever. Um yeah, it auto completed to that, right? Like um and this guy says run on site, and like he's quoting something from the manga, right? He's he's regarded as being just like a tier above even some of the strongest characters at that point in the story. um okay, so I'm just one more look, but I'll have to go back and look for that. Anyway, don't want to take too much time with that. I do want to take a look really quick. So Kakuzu on holiday in holidays. I'm sorry I haven't responded to your comment before. I do appreciate all the time and effort that you put into writing that. Like seriously, I really do love having the conversations. If you're still here in chat, I'd be happy to like bring up the comment now and go through it. Or I can respond via text tomorrow. And I would be happy to talk about that real quick, just kind of glazing over it. Not glazing over it. What's that? Yeah, okay. I'll glaze your comment for a while, bro. Um, no, I did feel like you kind of brought up some valid points. The only things that I would push back on would be like in a debate context. I think I could possibly be like nitpick and be like, well, can you prove this? Can you prove that? Especially with like the AP statements or DC statements for the whatchamacallit, the Kakuzu's like hearts jutsu. I think those are disputable. Um but definitely valid points. Yeah, so let's go over it real quick because you give us an opportunity to chat about some stuff. I'm just gonna get a glass of water, one sec. Okay. So I'll bring it up in this panel and I'll move it around a little bit. Okay. So correct me if I misread anything. More than happy to kind of go over anything that you'd like to kind of expand on. Okay, so I mainly say that it's Kakuzu's base with Diamond Morph versus Sasori's. Oh, right, the Sasori versus Kakuzu stuff, right? A whole and it's hard diff, which is funny because it's like he could just brute force via taijutsu. Um, I think I could possibly dispute this by just saying that like I think so. The problem is that he's gonna have to deal with so many different puppets simultaneously and so many different blades and stuff My concern for Kakuzu is that like once he starts moving, he's going to be um possibly find it difficult to keep himself protected while being attacked from all of those different puppets from all different sides. But if it's a one-on-one, if he's like going up against Hiriko and then going up against like Sasori with the third Kasekage and doesn't have to worry about all that, then maybe Sasori does have the ability to like bring in a whole lot of extra blades and like summon those like arms that are kind of fanning out like tentacles. So that's a potential thing to consider. But then we could talk about like, well, what's the AP of those things as well? Like Sakura survived them, right? Um, but I wanted to say most is Kakuzu with his hearts unleashed. It's just a slaughter. The wind, fire mask have insane DP, and we know that puppets have a very bad durability. If any of them is not protected by Iron Sand, all of them will be wiped out. Um, I'd be actually be happy to go over the Sasori fight. Intuitively, what I would want to explore more here is um how do we actually figure out like what the DP of the fire masks and the wind masks are? Because unfortunately, like just going through this fight, they don't hit a lot of they don't really do a lot of damage, unfortunately. They do to the trees and they do destroy the forest. So as long as you're okay with like trying to find some scaling based on, like this, for example, like pressure damage, um we could take a look at this cone and take a look at the amount of damage that's being done to the trees and try to get a destructive capability value for this and then go off of that. It's just unfortunate that nobody gets hit by it, so it's harder to do like an AP calc. This is something that Noodles brought up, I believe, and I have a bit of a disagreement with it, but I think he's kind of onto something, which is that this false darkness that Kakuzu fires off over here has these two different branching forks. So there's one going for Choji and then one going for Shikamaru, and then it takes Kakashi two of his lightning blades to catch both of them. So this kind of suggests that, and then nullify them. This kind of suggests that each one of Kakashi's Raikiri it needs to be at least as strong as each of these bolts, because if it's not, he would get pushed back, right? So then you have some kind of AP scaling, like a minimum AP scaling, for this. But you could also counter that and say, well, if Kakashi's is like a million times stronger, it would still cancel it out. So really, this is just a feat for Kakashi is more than Kakuzu. But again, if you look in the third data book, it does like the text underneath this feat that's explaining the like clash and chakra natures or whatever. It does heavily imply that they're equivalent. So that's something that we can go off of. But so I think false darkness probably wouldn't have a problem like getting through a lot of the puppets. I think probably a diamond morph punch wouldn't have a lot of trouble getting through them. Um, but as for the other ones, I'm not sure about wind. I'm not sure about fire. I would have to kind of think about that a bit more and see, actually see those things taking more damage. Let me read some comments real quick. You can prove them all. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd be happy to hear like proofs or arguments or whatnot for that. For sure, definitely open to that. It's just at this moment you don't mention the hearts. Kakuzu himself. Oh yeah, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, that's something that I think is worth considering too. Is that like Kakuzu splitting his hearts up, having four different hearts that are moving around the battlefield, and then him going around with his diamond morph punches. That could definitely be a very strong asset. Again, though, my concern is that and this is where it gets tricky. What exactly are the threads of the hearts and of his Jungu made out of, and can they be poisoned? Um, so I don't. I've looked in the data books. I've looked on his character profiles online. I haven't seen anyone specifically say what these things are supposed to be, other than they've been described as either tentacles or threads. Some people have said they are made of steel. I haven't seen that, or haven't been convinced of that. What I think you probably are aware of, but just to kind of go back a little bit to, I want to say it's 320 maybe, for the Asuma fight. There's that moment where Kakuzu um, stitches Hidan's head back on, and it would be weird for me to it doesn't seem to line up for me for that to be for the threads to be made out of steel, if that were were to be happening, right? Like Hidan's head comes off and now he's got like steel staples in his head and they just kind of like go back to normal. I think, or like his head kind of goes back to normal. I think Kakuzu also stitches back Deidara's arm on at one point. So yeah, this does not look to me like something that's made out of steel, right? This looks like it's a tentacle or something to that effect. Naruto Versity, actually, I wish they provided a source for this because I think it's really cool. But where is it? 1 second. This article over here. I wish I knew where the hell they got any of this stuff from. But if you read this article, Kakuzu's Earth Grudge Fear, it basically makes the argument that this jutsu was invented by a medic nin, so like a doctor, who specialized in using threads infused with medical chakra to stitch up wounds. So basically, these things are like semi-organic, and they're based on like a medical like suture essentially, and that Kakuzu learned it from, or like the jutsu itself was developed from a medical technique, which is why Kakuzu can then use it to like stitch things back together. I really like that idea. I don't know where they got this from because they don't have comments, they don't have sources. I guess I should have just like written and asked them, but it was written a long time ago, so 10 years, holy shit. But yeah, if so, and they're made of organic material, then my concern is like, okay, well, can they be cut with metal and can they be poisoned? And if so, then the hearts might be able to be taken out. Oh shit, I missed a few comments. Let me catch up here. His jutsu just wipe out insanely large trees, and databook says more. It's true. I think it does say in the third databook, right, that it's that pressure style wind style pressure damage is like likened to a natural disaster or something like that. Where are we? So that's definitely worth taking into consideration, especially since I've made arguments that like the air bullets from Shikaku are significant. You know, I think Kakuzu, his jutsu are probably at least on that level. To be fair, so from the databook, it was said Kakashi suffered immeasurable damage. Okay, I'm gonna need to go back and look at that. Do you know if that was from which jutsu that was? Was it the like wind style pressure damage? I got the book here. Let me see, because I'd like to make sure that I get that one right. That would be really cool. Hopefully, sometime over the next month or so. Oh god, I hope it's not that long. I need to get these scans back onto my computer so I can actually share them and not just be like, oh, you trust me, I have the book here, you know? Okay, let's see. Wind style pressure damage 297. Okay, so for anyone listening back to this, this is going to be in the third data book. It's the official Viz publication. Hard to find scans online for whatever reason, but you can pick it up from Crunchyroll for like $10. Let's just read wind style pressure damage. So Wind Blast, a powerful wind style ninjutsu unleashed by one of Kakuzu's 5 hearts. A very densely compacted tornado mass, so that's cool, is launched at the target. When it impacts, the air pressure raised to the extreme knocks down everything in its path. In the hands of a master of wind nature transformation, the fierce whirlwind explodes over a wide area, inflicting severe damage to the target and its surroundings. Nice. With a thunderous roar, winds of overwhelming power and quantity bear down at the target. The wild, raging winds knock down trees and gouge the earth. Very, very cool. Because it is expelled suddenly from behind a mask, it is an extremely difficult jutsu to anticipate. And then at the bottom it says destructive power on par with a natural disaster. Yeah, so it's definitely an insane ability. It's really, really cool. And I love, this is where I get a little bit annoyed sometimes with the debate community, is that people will look at stuff like that and they'll be like, see, he's literally conjuring natural disasters and it's literally like inescapable, like no one can avoid it and you can't predict it. It's like, calm down. Like these descriptions are so cool. They're obviously like hyperbolic, right? They're obviously like a little hyped up and they're there for dramatic effect and all that, which is a good thing. I think they're really well done. It makes you feel like these jutsus have have a ton of power behind them. And also like there's a little bit of what do you call it? Creative liberty that's applied to those descriptions. Okay. So oh yeah, Alherd, if you actually have a link to a third databook scan, that would be amazing. I feel lazy. I feel like I should have just gotten the scans done myself. I just haven't gotten around to it. But yeah, I would definitely appreciate that. Thank you. Um, Let me catch up on comments too. In the data book, it was Kakashi said, Kakuzu don't need. Oh, I just realized you're probably talking about the false darkness, weren't you? My bad. Kakuzu don't need diamond armor to do hard punch. Well, it's true he doesn't need it, but I feel like his strongest attacks are like his strongest taijutsu are going to be diamond morph enhanced, right? Do you happen to know of any other examples of him like doing insane damage with a basic punch? I'd definitely be interested in seeing that. But they're threads made of Junggu. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So Junggu is the ability that gives him or it's the technique that allows him to summon those threads. Um, so I'm guessing that they're just like made out of chakra, right? But they also have I mean, this is the funny thing. Junggu is not given a nature release in the data book. I can double check, but I don't think it actually has like an earth release. Even though it's called Earth's Grudge Fear, it's just called a hidden jutsu or forbidden jutsu. But we could speculate that because it has Earth in the title, maybe it is actually, and they didn't just list it that way, and that he's using some sort of an Earth chakra manipulation to conjure up those threads, something like that. Um, some things are not from the official data books. It was from Clash of Jutsu. Oh, okay, Clash of Jutsu. I'm actually not familiar with that. Clash of Jutsu. Is that like a separate? Is that was it a game or was it the that? Oh, are you saying it was from the Clash of Jutsu section in the data book where they're talking about like different nature transformations clashing together? Um, so sorry if I misunderstood that. The images are the encounter of Raikiri, Tachi Sasuke Frost Outline. Oh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about now. Yep, my bad. Here to defend Kakuzu. People say Kakashi survived with 0 damage, but well, again, I would get shut down in a debate for this, I'm sure. But uh, in a esoteric sense, characters do like the amount of damage that they've taken and their overall condition over the course of a fight is oftentimes represented with their clothing. Not all the time, right? But in a series where like Dragon Ball or like certain parts of Naruto where these characters are reinforced with this like semi-invisible substance that's flowing through their bodies called chakra, and it's sometimes hard to, and they have like masks over their face and stuff like that. It's sometimes hard to tell like how much damage they've taken, and if they are all covered in armor or tactical gear or whatever, that can be hard too. So sometimes a way of putting on emphasis for that is to remove their clothes. Not like that, but like to show damage like tearing, burning of their articles of clothing. So here, Kakashi's lost his vest, presumably with the wind style that was before, and then you can actually see like it's ripping the cloth off of his hands, and then his hands are like burned and singed. So he didn't even like to give Kakuzu some credit here. He didn't Kakashi didn't even just like shove off and totally like deflect the false darkness, right? He catches it, but it still pushes back into his hands and rips off his clothes and burns his hands. So he definitely took a hit there, right? This isn't the as far as I can recall, the Raikiri doesn't normally do this. He doesn't like get hand burns when he just does a Raikiri like on his own, right? So this could be some evidence, like further evidence that Kakuzu's false darkness is actually like a tiny bit stronger than the Raikiri, which would be useful for scaling Kakuzu to other places too. Um, Kakuzu kick on Kakashi isn't in diamond armor. Yes, that's true, but I don't think he did that much damage to him. Let's go check a look. Right, so here's Kakashi just having killed Kakuzu. Kakuzu falls down. Hidan still in the shadow possession. He starts moving towards him. Okay, so he kicks him in the chest, right? Definitely not happy about that. And then he gets pushed back and he goes through the tree, or he makes a cavity in the tree anyway. Um, this is kind of weird. Kakuzu's over here and he kicks Kakashi back. Where the hell? Sorry, the actually, like, direction of motion here is kind of weird. So Kakashi's going this way. Kakuzu kicks him back here into the tree. Oh, so then he's doing this amount of damage to the tree, and then he's there with Hidan, and uh, so Kakashi should be like around there, and then the tree itself breaks and falls over, and Kakashi's somewhere in there, right? If I got that right. Um, okay, so I'm not sure how much Kakashi took damage here. I'm not saying that he didn't take any. I think it's reasonable to assume that he was like at least bruised. Um, and obviously like the tree took damage, so that's part of the AP calculation for this attack. But at the same time, like he doesn't seem to be injured. Like he's not like wheezing or wincing. His clothing isn't damaged. Um, we don't see any blood on him, so it's sort of hard to tell like how hurt he was. He's just a little scuffed up, I guess. Um, yeah. Curious if you have any more thoughts about that. So let's see. One thing so the second he'd understand. Oh, sorry, I got a little out of order here. Here to defend Kakuzu. Oh, yep. And by the way, like again, I'm gonna be challenging a lot of statements that I've heard people say about Kakuzu, but I still do like him as a character, and it's not like he's um fodder by any means, right? I just I dispute mostly I disagree with like the Yugito scaling, and I disagree with where the implications of that lie. But with regards to Kakuzu himself as a character, like he should be given credit for the feats that he has. He's a cool character. He is strong. It does have a nature release. Yeah, not for the threads, but in what he can store in it. Oh, I see what you're saying. I heard that makes sense. Um, Jungu isn't linked to any elemental jutsu. Yes, okay. Are you of the opinion that Kakuzu loses her style after his first death? I don't think though. Yeah, great, someone sensible. Yeah, I'm gonna throw in my hat in the ring there too and say that at some point this is much later in the debate, so we probably won't get to it for a while, but at some point I think Noodle says something like Kakuzu loses his earth heart or his grudge heart or something like that. And I don't think any of his hearts are like earth release specifically. I think in the anime it's this heart that dies here is I don't actually remember specifically. I have to go look it up. But like if you look at the coloration of each of the hearts, one of them is lightning. Obviously, one of them is wind. One of them is fire, and then the other one is water. And I think this water one dies here, but maybe in the anime it doesn't die immediately, and it still like shoots water at people, which would leave Kakuzu himself um as the Earth user, and I think that makes sense. It would be weird too because, well, again, like when he shows up in the war and he starts stealing people's hearts, um if Junggu is an earth release jutsu, then you could argue that he needs to have earth release himself in order to be able to get the other hearts in the first place. um but if it's not, then I guess it's more ambiguous. I guess I'll just say that like I've not seen any evidence to indicate that we know he has like wind, electricity, or lightning and fire. And the anime seems to think this one is water, and it's also colored whatchamacallit. It's also colored blue, I think, in the official colorations. So I think he probably can just use Earth himself. But again, in the why am I just yapping instead of looking it up? Hang on, I'm gonna look it up in the data book. It might 56. I wonder, in the back of my head, I'm thinking that his releases just had a question mark on them, but I might be mistaken there. Yep, here's his page on page 56, and he does not have a release listed. Neither does Orochimaru. Oh wait, no, that's his rank. Hang on. I guess they don't show it in the third data book. Oh yeah, so I'm looking at the explanation of how to go through the data book that's on like page 14, and They show okay, that must be from the fourth data book. So yeah, in the third data book, they don't actually specify what Kakuzu's like default nature releases are. I guess they just start listing that stuff in the fourth data book. So anyway, that was a bit of a tangent. Just to say that I agree with you, but I can't prove it. But I agree with you anyway. Um, Kakashi was pushed back as well. Yeah, I think so. I think a little bit. When he arrives, you can see his legs going back. Um, oh, you mean like pushing down into the dirt when false darkness gets cast on him? Maybe. Are you saying like these little dash marks at the bottom of the screen is him? I think it's a little hard to tell because I think this little like blur over here is meant to be Kakashi, and so he's landing into the ground and skidding and bracing himself. I don't have a problem with that idea that he's being pushed back a little bit. That's totally fine. I think it's a little hard to tell. I think if you, depending on if you were debating somebody, depending on how like strict they are, so to speak, they might like push back on you and say like, prove it. But I think that makes sense. I guess here's something you can do if you I don't think this is necessary at all. Okay, I'm not trying to like be nitpicky about what you said, but if you really wanted to look into it, you could try to like measure the distance between these two characters and then look here, and you could measure them over here and see if he's moved at all, which would indicate he was getting pushed back. You could also look to see if there were any lines on the ground that kind of indicated that he was like leaving a scoring line, like dragging in the dirt. Um, but again, like you could also say, well, maybe Kishimoto just didn't focus on that detail because there's a lot else going on in the scene. Just things to explore. Definitely don't think you're wrong at all about that. Let's see. Let's see. Kakashi was pushed back as well. When he arrives, you can see his legs going back up. I asked other Kakuzu stands and they did not hit too much. Yeah, fair. Noodles named you Kakuzu God. Oh, congratulations. Yep. Seems like you're living up to your username. That's great. One sec. So I gotta ask you then, if you're the Kakuzu God, how far do you think Kakuzu scales up into the Akatsuki? Like if he does an Akatsuki gauntlet, do um you think he gets past Sasori? I think Auhurt, you were the one, and by the way, please correct me if I'm saying that wrong. I think it's Auhurt, is that right? You were saying last time, right, that you think that Sasori um beats Kakuzu, so I'm guessing that Kakuzu and Holidays might have some something to say about that. Um, but Kakuzu and Holidays, how far do you think Kakuzu in Naruto goes up the chain? Do you think he gets as far as like Itachi or Pain or whatever? Um, the domino effect. Curious about the domino effect. I'm not sure what you're referring to. With Kick Kakashi has some effect on his body, meaning he's trembling. Yeah, I could see that. Kakuzu kicked Kakashi in a tree, and the tree fell over. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That if that's the domino effect, what you're saying, then yeah, I do think that they kind of I don't. I think Noodles at one point said something like, Kakashi got kicked through an entire forest. Disagree with that take. I think Kakuzu kicked him into the tree broke, and then the tree did a domino effect, like Auhart was saying. Um, the turtle animal mask. Yep. Okay. No, it's not an Earth release jutsu. It's like a symbiote. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Um, I really wish that like I think Kishimoto does do a really good job for the most part of making his jutsu grounded somewhat in reality, and or not in reality, but like in the magic system that he's created, and then he makes the magic system feel real, if that makes sense. But at the same time, he there are certain things that he doesn't spend as much time explaining, and on the one hand, you can argue that that just adds to the mystery. Like I don't know that we really needed a databook page explaining like, oh, when Hidan uses, his Joshin Ultra activation mode, then he gets like a plus 10% damage. Like, we don't need anything like that, right? We just know that Joshin is some deity, some mysterious force, and it gives him like an insane ability. And that like lends more to the mystery of it. But that being said, with stuff like Kakuzu's ability, I don't know. I think there was a little bit more opportunity to kind of explore the mechanics of it, like how it works and just like what these things are actually made of. I think especially since Tsunade does an autopsy on his body, it's kind of weird that she only does the autopsy to talk about the Rasen Shuriken and doesn't talk about like hey, maybe we should do some research on this happening. Maybe this is going to be useful later to know about. But anyway, missed opportunity maybe. Let me go back to comments. No, it's not an Earth release. Okay, not a rank. Its default is Earth stated by Shikaku in the War Arc. Okay, that makes sense. Um, Also, he loses Lightning Heart instead of his Earth Heart when he dropped after Hedon's ritual. Oh, do you mean? Oh, I see. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess where that claim was coming from too was like we don't see him use Diamond Morph after this part, and I think like some people were just like, okay, well, he's not using Diamond Morph because he can't use it because he's lost his heart, which that kind of does make sense logically to a certain extent. But at the same time, it's like maybe he decided that it was more advantageous for him to just use like the more advanced Jungu configurations with the tentacles out and everything like that than it was to just like stand still and like wall up with Diamond Morph. I mean, this is a more versatile and offensive configuration, right? When you think about it, so I think there's different ways to look at it. Um, let's see. The Earth. Okay, so the Earth dies because he destroyed it. Lightning must have died because he gave his heart. Hmm. I think each of the monsters is just like a. It's just what the heart looks like when it's out of their body, right? So, I think, but also like Kakuzu can kind of replace his own heart with it, something like that. So like when Hedon, stabs himself in the chest right here, um, he doesn't choose like Kakuzu doesn't like choose which heart he like, gets killed, right? It's basically just like he loses a life almost like in a video game. Um it looks like he's just or maybe he just like takes one of the hearts that he has in his body and then he moves it into his heart, into his like chest, and then that one serves as his main heart. And then when that one dies, one of the other one comes back in and fills it up. So I guess you could argue then that if we don't know what Kakuzu's like chakra nature is normally, then maybe the one that was in his heart when Kakashi stabbed him was actually his Earth heart, not his Earth grudge heart, right? The Jungu is a separate thing, but it could have been his Earth heart, and that could be an explanation for why he never uses um, Diamond Morph later on in this fight, and that would make sense because um, I wonder what you guys think about this. The third data book says that what's his name? That Kakuzu was from a samurai village, right? He wasn't a ninja to begin with, and the samurai don't have usually access to ninja and ninjutsu the way that people in other villages do. So maybe Kakuzu doesn't have a nature release of his own normally. Maybe his only like basic ninjutsu is this, and then all of the elemental stuff that he does, or the nature release stuff that he does, is just him borrowing hearts. So the reason why he does Diamond Morph is because he stole it from an Earth style user or something like that. But that is just pure speculation. Like I have no idea, and it does seem kind of weird. Now that I think about it, it does seem kind of weird that like his iconic ability, that one of his iconic abilities that he's using all the time, like to punch through the fire temple door and stuff like that. Like, would that really just be something he just picked up from some random heart, or I don't know. I do like the idea though that like everything he has is just like stolen and incorporated, but I wonder if he does have like at least a basic Earth affinity. I think that would make more sense, honestly. The Earth dies because okay. I have an argument versus anyway. Okay. Let me see. I think. Well, I would be curious. So obviously you've heard the arguments for Kakuzu versus Pain. I'm sure you have thoughts on that. If you had to give me your best, I actually do have an argument for Kakuzu versus Pain, but it's really fucking goofy. I can give it to you if you want, but I would be curious if you um do you agree with like Noodle's take on Kakuzu versus Pain? I think it's pretty clear that he like not super serious about it, that he's kind of using edgy arguments to create entertainment, um, first and foremost. But I would be curious, like, do you think there's a world in which Kakuzu beats Pain, and if so, how does he do it? Um, yeah, poison gas. 2 words, poison gas. Alive Akatsuki or Prime. I'll just say for Pain, I'll just say the one that fights Naruto in the village. I won't say anything about my top, but to me, he has response to anyone involved in the Akatsuki. Okay, be happy to hear that. But his most difficult matchup would be Kisame plus all the pain. Yeah, good point. Kisame is just like, um, is I want to do a video on him because I feel like people don't. Um, how can I explain this? His power level is just so crazy. Oh yeah, that's what I was trying to say. The ceiling for his power, right? The upper limit for his power is just so high, um, that I think that if you really explore like how high he can potentially scale, it's crazy. I think there's a very clear reason why Kishimoto didn't bring him back for the war, and not just because of the timeline of the story. I think like he obviously had an opportunity to find a reason to make Kisame fight in the war. He chose not to, and I think part of the reason why is because he would have very heavily tipped the scales. I'll just leave it at that. Although he did bring back Nagato, and Nagato was stronger than he was when he was fighting against the Paths of Pain, and he died in like 3 chapters. So maybe I'm overthinking it. His most difficult method would be Kisame. Oh, I already read that. Yep. If it's a live Akatsuki, so Sikitachi and OM Obito. Yep. Sikitachi. I wonder how Kakuzu would deal with the Genjutsu is the only thing. I don't know if I would say that I think Kakuzu could hurt Itachi, especially Sikitachi. But I don't know how he's dealing with Tsukuyomi, frankly. You can see behind Kakuzu that the wind mask cleared a portion of the forest. Yep, he does definitely blow through the forest. And since, for me to stay consistent, since I've argued for the feats of the air bullets, like Shikaku's air bullets, then I have to acknowledge that Kakuzu's like clearing the forest is a feat as well. The lightning mask just went in him. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because they kind of like run back into his body after this, right? Let me see. Yeah, so Choji tries to like slap his palms down and smash him, and then they just like dash back into his body. So, oh, I think this one's kind of. Oh, I see. So, is this the lightning one that's now cracked and broken, and then he has the other two? Because, yeah, I think these are the two that he can still use. This is the fire one, and this is the wind one, if I'm not mistaken. So I think he tries to pull the lightning one back in, but it's broken at this point, if I'm interpreting this correctly. Um, you can see behind Kakuzu that the wind mask of the one body lightning mask. He was a ninja, not really a samurai. It says samurai because of his code of honor back then, how loyal he was to the water. Oh, okay, that's right. You're right. The Waterfall Village is a ninja village, so it's the samurai code that he was following. Okay, that makes more sense. I kind of like this headcanon I've developed of him being like a samurai that becomes a ninja basically by getting like a ninja implant. But you're right. I don't think that's literally what happened. Um, you do seem to know this character. It is very it's fun. I don't Kakuzu is not somebody I would personally like rank in my top 5 necessarily, but he is very cool. He's got a very dynamic ability set, and talking to somebody who knows him better than I do and can help me like challenge some of my perspectives on him, like I definitely appreciate that. Um I don't know why Kakuzu would be blind. Uh are you is that kind of like a like throwing shade at him for how dumb he was at a couple of moments in the Naruto fight? Um, but no, I think he's very clearly he looks at people, he responds to people, um, visually and like turns his head and stuff like that. Um, not really with none of the Akatsuki skill the KCM one Naruto. I mean, I guess like the Edo scaling gets weird, but if Itachi is in any way comparable to when he was alive when he's in Edo, then he scales. Anyone who scales to B scales to KCM Naruto, right? KCM one. So probably, so Kisame would, because Kisame almost killed B. Um, maybe Obito does. My Obito scaling is not like super great, but he definitely seems to be up there. Let's see what else. I actually think that Obito. This was a debate on Six's Discord or Six's live stream a while ago. I actually think Obito could probably beat the Six Paths of Pain, maybe if he does something very specific. But I don't think he would beat Nagato one-on-one. See. That Nagato was caught by surprise in the war arc because his vision was blindfolded by dust. Stated in the fourth data book, the Kakuzu's forte is to fight large amounts of opponents, and Kakuzu can wipe. So yeah, I guess I'll just go ahead and reveal it. I think that, let me see if I can just bring this up 1 second. Don't need this chapter right now, so let's go to the Pain versus Naruto fight, and let's go to 430, I think, and let's see when Naruto starts throwing Rasen Shuriken at Pain. I think it would be in the next chapter, right? Yeah, here we go. So, look at this. No, this is when he just gets mad. This is the first time. It's the second time, and then later in the fight he does the same thing. I don't know if we have to look at both of them. We can just look at this first one. So, yep, there's when the Predapath absorbs it. Okay, yeah, so here we go. He makes these two stage Rasengan, and then he looks like he uses one of them to help like further explode and distribute the smoke from these smoke bombs. Okay, creates a wall of smoke. This guy's got the Rinnegan, and we know that like Sasuke can see invisible things, or like Obito could see that invisible shinobi in the Third War, which is I think Noodles actually brings up in the debate here, but or in the Swag-Kage debate, something like that. Nagato should be able to see what's in the smoke, right? Like he has a dojutsu that's ascended beyond the Sharingan, but he's just like, wait, what the fuck? He sees this Rasen Shuriken coming at him, doesn't realize that it's a shadow Rasen Shuriken or a transformed one. So he did not see Naruto transform inside the smoke. And then when this happens, Naruto grabs the Predapath and brings him down. He's able to negate the Rasen Shuriken as it comes in, but then he also didn't see the other clone coming in from above. So he missed both of those things because there was smoke in front of him, which to me is really, really silly. But this happens again later in the fight, and it happens in the Jiraiya fight as well. So Pain just can't see through visual obstructions. He doesn't have a Byakugan, he doesn't have a Sharingan, he has a Rinnegan, and the Rinnegan apparently can't see through smoke. So my argument for how Kakuzu could beat Pain is that as long as he can like keep track of Pain's position, Pain seems to be like easily dumbfounded by there being any amount of smoke in his way. And if he can just create obstructions and then like sneak around and grab the individual paths of Pain, I think his Diamond Morph Punch, if you look at the amount of damage he does with a Diamond Morph Punch and compare that to when Naruto tags the Predapath with the Frog Kata Punch, I haven't actually done the math yet, so feel free to do this and challenge me if you like. But my headcanon for this is, look at what Naruto does here, right? The Predapath jumps in front, Naruto comes over here, and then you look at this moment where he quote-unquote misses his punch, but then the shockwave from the Frog Kata catches the Predapath in the cheek, and then throws him, and this like one-shots him, like kills him, quote-unquote, right? So if you were to calculate the mass of this dude and how far he flies, and get a sense of the amount of force behind that punch, and you compare that to Kakuzu punching through the Fire Temple door with the Diamond Morph Punch, I'm confident, it's not proven, but I'm confident that Kakuzu can output this much power. If so, then he could one-shot with a punch any of the paths of Pain that he can actually hit. The problem is he's got to get up to them to be able to hit them. But if he can just make a bunch of smoke all over the battlefield and Pain just stands there like a dumbass and doesn't do anything, then he can at least, take out several of them with that. Tendo is obviously much more durable. Tendo tanks a direct kick from Naruto and isn't apparently damaged by it. So that's another story. Tendo, we get into a different conversation. But he has a chance of at least like getting an advantage in the fight by being silly and just making a mess, I guess. Okay, let me get back to some comments here. Let's see. Is Kakuzu blind? No, I don't think so. Okay, but we've seen that Kakuzu, yeah, there's probably 4 V abilities. The battlefield to blind him and kill them one by one. Yeah, I actually, I think you just basically, like, I missed your comment and then I just kind of repeated what you said. So sorry if I wound up paraphrasing you there, but I think your mention of it going underground, that makes a lot of sense as well. Um, Broken to revive him, main body lightning nature. Yep, and to love unloved characters. Yeah, you know they're. It honestly, it's nice. Like you will hear me say a lot of things that are critical of Noodle's perspective on different things. I can't deny that he breathed life into this character by creating like a controversial discussion about him. Kakuzu, to my perspective, was not a character a lot of people were talking about. And then maybe I should give more credit to Parrot because he originally started um, I guess the scaling or whatever, if I'm getting that right. But um the Swag Kage debate about Kakuzu versus Pain was like I feel like anybody who saw that was like, wait, what? This is a fight, and um needed to go watch that. And it has like something like 500,000 views, right? Let me check this one. Spike versus Noodles. Uh, so let's see. Yeah, 545,000 views in 3 years. So people want to know about these characters, and people like an underdog story, man. Like I love the idea. Like if you tell me that Hashirama can Haku can beat Hashirama, like I want to hear it. That's fun, right? So let me keep going here. Excuse me. The battle for the planet and kill them one undergrounds. Yep. Theory about this like dehydration because of age. Oh, interesting. With Kakuzu being blind because of his age. Very interesting. I hadn't thought of that, but maybe that's why his eyes are the way that they are. Is that what you're saying? That'd be kind of cool. Well, it is like characters like Madara can sense other people nearby. And oh, Itachi, right? When Orochimaru first comes out, Itachi's blind at the time, but he can feel like Orochimaru's chakra, and he can still like walk over to Sasuke. So being blind wouldn't necessarily be debilitating for somebody of Kakuzu's level. But I feel like he does look around the battlefield, like when Naruto comes up on him, like he looks and sees him coming from the side. Let me see. But maybe he's just like his overall like vision quality isn't that great. Yeah, I mean, like he definitely sees this, right? But, but I do like that as an explanation for why his eyes are all messed up. Yeah, like here, right? Yeah, you see, like he's looking over to the side. I think he does see. He's looking over here. I think he's looking over here to target with the wind mask, and then he looks to the other side to target with the fire mask. So he's actually probably got pretty good vision because he's. And then he sees Naruto coming in from over there, or hears him probably, and then looks at him. Visually sees him, just doesn't have enough time to turn around, I think. But anyway, it's a really cool idea though. Um. Uh. Oh. Oh, you said Sasori, didn't you? Not Cox. Fuck. Okay. All right. Appreciate that. Just pretend I said Sasori instead of Kakuzu this whole time, okay? Thank you. Appreciate it. Um Naruto versus Edo Itachi. Naruto had a ton of clones, so his chakra was divided. Yeah, that's fair. Oh wait. Did he have a ton of clones against Edo Itachi? I don't remember that. Do you mean like after that fight when he splits off and like goes into the war, he splits himself into different things? Maybe I'm just forgetting something. Uh he only sees chakra can be used to the disadvantage as well, but yes, you could see. Yep, no. I don't think Naruto's clone mastery makes his division of clones create significant fatigue. At least for standard 24-hour day anyway, only since his clone mastery gets better over uses. Yeah, I think I remember this coming up in a debate as well. I'm trying to remember the exact context, but yeah, I think that when basically in Naruto, when you make a jutsu, let me go to this real quick. When you make a jutsu, right, you make chakra by drawing from your stamina, and um yeah, I think we looked at this like maybe in the first stream that I did. But yeah, we take stamina, and stamina is a combination of your mental energy and your physical energy. And then you take those two things together, right? Drawing from the cells of your body. and also from like your experience and your quote unquote soul power or whatever. It's not literally that, but the power of your mind, the power of your experiences and everything you've gone through. And you take all of that and you convert it into this resource pool called chakra. It's like a mana pool basically. And then from that chakra pool, you use signs to then generate a ninjutsu. And the efficiency, the skill that you have in making those signs determines what percentage of the chakra that you make gets converted effectively into a ninjutsu. So you're taking the power of your mind and your body, you're making chakra out of that, and then you're taking the chakra and then you're making a ninjutsu out of that. So as long as Naruto plans ahead and kind of apportions his chakra correctly, he can just like he can be like, okay, I'm gonna take 10% of my stamina and make shadow clones with that, and then he would still basically be not fatigued. He would still probably be able to move just as fast and still be able to then like use a Rasengan at full power, as long as the Rasengan costs less than his max stamina and he has efficient chakra use, then he can do multiple jutsu like several times, including shadow clones, without worrying about getting fatigued. Then once Kurama gives him his chakra, that's just like another boost on top of that. I don't think he gets into Ebisu gets into that, right? Yeah, so I don't here he's talking about efficiency. I think he's actually talking about the shadow clone thing right here. I want to read this real quick. So to control and manipulate the chakra based on the individual technique, stamina 30% of stamina. Yeah, I think this is what I was talking about, right? If your stamina and chakra both fell to 0, you would die 0%. Yeah, so I think that all makes sense. See, we go back to comments. Yeah, yeah. There was that somebody was upset. Somebody was upset at some point, right? I'm sure you remember when was this Parrot who was talking about this when Naruto first shows up. Kakuzu was like, um, yeah, another weirdo shows up and already disheveled. So open to interpretation. Um, Naruto has just been doing some insanely taxing training, and he came straight from wherever he was training to this fight. I think it's reasonable to assume that he's used up some of his stamina pool that we were talking about before. It would be highly unlikely that he would be at 100% stamina, especially since I know this is like silly and everything, but look what he says here. I ate my ramen and I slept well. I'm at full power, right? So it's not just about like whether or not Kurama restored him, like healed him or whatever. It's also about his overall physical and mental well-being and whether or not he's rested. Granted, he can recuperate very quickly, but if he was like just lifting weights and like to failure, for example, and then ran over here um to the battlefield, he would probably be able to then like lift weights again, like do bench press again, even if he was like just doing it to failure a minute ago. But he wouldn't be at 100% athletic potential, right? Like if he started boxing with somebody, he would be more tired than he would have been beforehand. Regardless, it is also true that the word disheveled does not mean tired. This is just referring to him being like grody and like scuffed up and everything. But I do think it's reasonable that his stamina is going to be affected by what he's been doing recently, even if he does have insane regeneration. Okay, so clone mastery. They're very fragile because they're corpses. Oh yeah, the Edo Tensei. So you guys would probably agree that the Edo Tensei have like less durability. I've been wondering about that. I saw a Reddit thread a while ago where people were talking about whether or not Edo Tensei are actually nerfed much, and I still am not 100% convinced to what extent they are nerfed. But if you guys think that they all get like a flat durability nerf, that'd be interesting. Um, yeah, their corpses actually it's in base while blocked, but it was sent far away. Okay, yeah, I think I see what you're saying there. They're giving Uzumaki chakra, which oh, you're saying that the clones get Uzumaki chakra? That would be cool. Yeah, Parrot. I think Parrot was the one who said that. Yeah. Unfortunately, Swag acted like an ass and kind of cyberbullied. Okay, real talk. Just gonna be honest here. Let me go to let me just go to YouTube and let me type in um, uh, 1 second. What was it called? No, not YTPs. Well, we can watch some of those if you want. I'm trying to think of it. Oh yeah, Swag, or Kakuzu versus Pain. Let's look at this, right? So, if we go here,
right. Well, why do you
this is the main video itself.
think Kakuzu would beat Nagato?
Pretty innocuous, right? It's kind of silly. And yes, there's like a couple of like edgy things here. But the thing that really kind of gets to me is if you actually go to the full debate.
All right. Well,
I mean, it's funny, right? It's haha, jokes funny. But after all this time, like this is the way that he represents the conversation that he had with another person about a manga. And it does feel a little much to me. I don't know. It feels a little much. That being said, I keep going back and forth because there's a there's another debate that is unlisted and I can never find it. I always find it on like a playlist somewhere. I'll see if I can pull it up in the future. There's another debate with Parrot and Swag that is also unlisted. That's an hour and a half. That's sort of a follow up to this, or maybe it's the one that came before this. And Parrot is not friendly. Like he is not very charitable either. So I try not to judge too much because I don't know the context of the relationship between these two people. On the one hand, this is kind of funny but also kind of mean-spirited, and on the other hand, if you go and listen to that other Parrot debate, it's like, okay, they clearly like need to hug it out, you know. You know what I mean? Um, let's see. Let's see. Plus, Obito compliments Kakuzu once directly and once indirectly. Obito compliments him. Please. Oh, are you saying that like when Obito says that he killed that Naruto killed two of his hearts, so Pain should be careful. Is that what you're talking about? I mean, like, I would love it if you're able to reference the other times because I was not aware of that, but that'd be really cool to know about. Um, he made 13's swag. Sorry, I'm catching up on chat here. I'll just focus on comments for a second. Sorry. Alhurt, are you saying that swag and ramen? I wasn't sure what you were referring to there when you said swag and ramen going up. I mean, ramen being noodles, right? But during the Kakuzu fight, he's fatigued. Yeah, I would agree that he's is probably fatigued. And he used some of Kurama's chakra for an. Oh, you're saying that comment came from that debate. I understand. Okay. Um, with Kurama's chakra, he outperformed what he did in his training. Stated by Yamato, Naruto could only do 2 Rasen Shuriken. Oh, yeah. So that's interesting. So you think that like when Naruto uses the Kyuubi chakra, that it's giving him like the ability to use the Rasen Shuriken, whereas he couldn't do it before. That's actually a really cool explanation. I know people have talked about like whether or not he's amped here or whether he should be considered like significantly stronger than base because he's got the QBIs. I don't necessarily see that he is leagues different. Like he doesn't have like the prominent whiskers and the intense eyes and stuff that he gets previously. But I like the idea that he's getting like a little bit of chakra to kind of help him through it. That's actually a good explanation. I like that. Let's see. Bronze chakra, he outperformed. Yeah, the paths of pains. Yeah. Um, I do think Nagato is stronger, like significantly on his own, than when he's split up. But the splitting up the paths does contain a tactical advantage. Doesn't want to have the chakra at the time, certainly because of buffs. Just a detail to point out that at that point in the story, KM0 doesn't amp at this point. Oh, by KM0, are you referring to the to him having like the slit eyes, or is that or is that when he has the like actual bubbly cloak over him? Rama gives a strong chakra amp, so it amps, yeah. Drawing blood from Deidara. Do that. You can do that, but not always. Oh, I see. I think I got what you're saying. Gameplay, he goes to KC0 for aesthetics, or KCO for aesthetics. There's an only. Yeah. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, this kind of gets into the semantics of like how chakra works, in that I'm of the belief that the specifics of it kind of get left by the wayside. later in the series, but especially going back to our like Ebisu explanation, or not even this, like I find it earlier, but it feels to me like when characters have more chakra, they given that chakra is a physical substance or semi-physical substance that is composed of different energies and can be transmuted into like solid substances and all that. I feel like the more chakra you have flowing through your body, you're going to wind up getting an increase to your resilience and to like how hard you hit. Even if you're not doing like the thing that Sakura does where she like concentrates her chakra into her fists like consciously. It just makes more sense, right? When we see characters like Choji deliberately concentrating chakra in his fist after he takes the red pill, his power goes way up, and that fist is able to like tank Jirobo's motions and all that. So it kind of makes sense that having a lot of chakra in one place just inherently benefits you. Of course, it's sort of difficult to prove, but that would allow us, if we could agree on that, then that would allow us to say like, okay, Naruto's getting more chakra from Kurama. He's got more chakra around him. Then he's quote unquote, like big air quotes, just stronger, right? You could obviously dispute that. Um, you can do that, but not always. Aesthetic, yeah, okay. So not any version with the one tails and more KCM. Yeah, stamina maybe, but how so strengthen this is. Um, I think it's again, this is kind of hand wavy, and so we would need to kind of like delve into how it works like realistically. But intuitively, it feels to me like again, that's you have more of this stuff flowing through you, and the stuff is powerful, and so it makes you more powerful. But again, it's like open to interpretation on based on agree. Okay, the indirect one is when Obito tells the Uchiha story. He says he is strong because he's lived since this era 80 years ago to now, which isn't the case for Obito, but is for Kakuzu. Oh, I see. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, yeah, that's cool. I mean, I'm not always clear on whether it's Pain or Obito going around gathering the Akatsuki members. I think it's sort of implied to be Pain by the statements in the third data book. But then, Obito kind of reveals he's behind the scenes. And then I don't know if you guys consider the creation of Akatsuki to be canon, but I think Obito in that might actually be the one who picked out Kakuzu and Deidara, or Kakuzu and Idan. Something like that. Like he picked out a couple of them and he's like, okay, I found these guys. Pain, go get them. Something like that. So, if that's the case, then I mean, being selected by Obito at all is kind of huge compliment, right? Like he's no nonsense. Well, when he's not Toby, in which case he's 100% nonsense. But he's obviously like cold and calculating and very committed to his mission. He's not just going to screw around and pick some random people. So if he's choosing Kakuzu, that's a huge compliment in and of itself. Love this panel, by the way. Yeah, Kakuzu is I mean, I'm sure his bingo book value was super high. Okay, I'm gonna take a quick break. Just gotta get a drink of water. I'll be back within 5 minutes, and we can pick things up. Thank you, by the way. I really appreciate the engagement, all the questions, all the feedback, and the patience with the responses as I'm figuring this stuff out. So really appreciate it. I'll see you in just a second. Okay, almost ready. Okay, let's see here. I have a theory about Kakuzu knowing Obito's identities. Interesting. Essentially headcanon, but with source material arguments, obviously. It's that apparently Kakuzu can sense people, imply versus Kakashi plus sense. Oh yeah, the sneaky shadow thing. Oh, in the novel. And was in the Akatsuki for 10 plus years and first recruited, but it's not the best part. Okay. When he was defeated in the war arc, Darui says they won the battlefield. Oh yeah, yeah. I actually love that. He's like, actually, we just won, and then Obito is revealed summons the Geto statue. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you think that Kakuzu just has the ability to kind of sense people's intentions in a weird way, kind of like how Naruto can sense threats when he gets Mito's ability in KCM1, if I'm remembering correctly. That'd be kind of cool. Like he's just so experienced and so jaded that he just sees through everybody's bullshit. Like Obito shows up and he's like, I'm so cool and mysterious, nobody will find out my plan. And then Kakuzu's like, yeah, I've seen this 100 times before, kid. Like it's not impressing me. That'd be funny. Okay. Well, I think that for the next little bit of the debate, please keep the questions coming if you have any questions or comments. Oh, he sends Obito's chakra because he knows him for so many. Oh, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Do you think he would have known about him as a kid as well, or do you think it would have just been like after he approached Nagato and all that? Yeah, yeah, exactly. You're not him. Obito really thinks he's him because he put on the mask. It's not gonna fly. So let's see. I think I want to. Oh, this is such a cool panel too. I think I want to talk a little bit about the paper bombs. I think I'm going to let me just read over your comment because I don't want to like leave you hanging for stuff that you said. So I'm gonna go over this real quick, and anything you want to talk about, let me know, and then I can also respond to stuff in text. I don't want to like ignore your comments. I'll take 5 minutes or so and go through this, and then I'm gonna go to paper bomb stuff for a little bit. So let's see. Oh, thanks for the Happy New Year, by the way. I missed that. Or I missed. I saw it and it made me happy. I just forgot to put the little heart. So sorry about that. First, if I hit the right button. Okay, here we go. So I think we went through over this. Any spirit stated in the data book, so you can do a lot of them if needed. He won't even need to fuse anything or do underground attacks versus Sasori. For the third ultimate move, Kakuzu can just wipe it out. I think you're onto something here. I think you have a good perspective. I would just want to see a little bit more elaboration on like how exactly each of those things are going to clash against one another, right? Like we do see Sakura kind of making short work of a lot of those things. Oh, but ultimately, I think I reread this recently, and it's Chio going up against Sasori that like Chio's puppets wind up clashing with Sasori's puppets and like helping to negate the whatchamacallit, the blades. So I'm not sure how, like I can't picture in my head how exactly Kakuzu's fire style is going to like melt the blades. Is it hot enough to do that? Is it going to melt the puppets or like set the puppets on fire? Is it strong enough to do that? It could be, but I feel like I would want to see some more elaboration on how exactly that's going to work. The Iron Sand defense will be ignored because of the lightning mask. The majority of the puppets will be torn apart because of the DP of the other flying hearts. While Kakuzu can either just dodge or tank with Diamond Morph. It's almost as if we have zero lose condition here. I think I disagree. But I do like the fact that you're trying to cover as many different aspects of the matchup as possible. Something that I wish they had done more in the debate was like talk about how all of the different paths of pain are going to be fighting at the same time with all the animal summons as well. Whereas they kind of just took things one by one. And I like that you're thinking about like how is Kakuzu going to use all of his abilities to the max, as opposed to just like, oh, I'm going to try a diamond morph punch. Oh, that failed. I'm going to try a kick. Oh, that failed, right? Like, or succeeded or whatever. But yeah, it's really important to think of all of the abilities all together. For the Naruto section, I just only have one thing to say. I have no clue why Kakuzu did so out of character since Naruto showed up. Kakuzu's fighting style is putting pressure on or to his enemies until they exhaust themselves or make a single mistake. He never did this versus Naruto. The best thing that I could say is that maybe he felt pressured because Yamato, like, he's gone up against Hashirama before, and he doesn't say anything about, like, or actually, sorry. Okay, one second. I'm gonna put something together in my head. In the third data book, it said something about Kakuzu being defeated by Wood Style and barely escaping with his life. So, Kakuzu, when he starts this fight, it takes him a second, right? Naruto kind of goes in, and so he doesn't see it right away. But at this point, you could argue that Kakuzu is just kind of being prudent because he has lost 2 of his hearts to, essentially Kakashi and a few Genin, or Chunin, I'm sorry. And now a few more have just showed up, and one of them is a Jinchuuriki, and then one of them is, I don't know if he knows that this is like an Anbu Jonin or whatever, but, obviously a potential threat. So I could see an argument that he's just like being cautious. He doesn't know what he's dealing with right now. And then he sees this and he's like, oh shit, okay, I have to be really careful. He's 2 hearts down and everything, so that's fine. And then, just to give him a little bit more credit, once you get here, Yamato comes in and uses Wood Style. And Wood Style frees him. And the third data book says that Kakuzu fought Hashirama, and then Wood Style nearly killed him, and he barely escaped with his life. So he sees this, and he might be having a little bit of PTSD. He might just be, I know he's like this battle-hardened, like 90-year-old veteran of all this bounty hunting and stuff, but this is the thing that almost killed him. This was the thing that, like, sent him out of his village and into this, like, life of crime and everything, right? Losing to a Wood Style. And now he's up against it again, against this monstrous jutsu from a Jinchuuriki. It could be that he just, like, panics a little bit and decides I have to be super, super careful, and overplays it, I guess. Let's see. Needed in the war. Yeah. The weakness of the puppets are fire-based. Oh, let me see here. The weakness of the puppets are fire-based on the Akatsuki novel. Oh, I haven't read. The only part of the Akatsuki novel I've read was the one, like, Evil Flowers in Bloom, with Kakuzu and Hidan looking for Shangri-La or whatnot. I haven't read the other ones. Would you recommend it? Because I'm happy to go over it. If they do have a weakness to fire, then that would obviously, like, change the fight for sure. Weakness of puppets are fire-based. Wind mass definitely clears the area with all the puppet included. I guess, yeah, I definitely think it has, like, the area of effect size to be able to hit them all. I would just be curious as to, like, how we can calculate the amount of damage that's done, because they're not just wood. If they were just wood, then okay, well, they're getting, Kakuzu is able to blow down these massive, like, redwood trees or whatever they are, with his wind style. But, how does that compare to a puppet that is reinforced with chakra and blades and mechanisms and all that stuff? Is it, and also being controlled by Sasori, like, attached with puppet strings, is it really fair to just, like, kind of wave your hand and say that he would just blow them all away immediately? I think we should give Sasori a little bit more credit. Not saying that Kakuzu doesn't stand a chance or anything. I'm just saying that, like, it feels a little overly simple to just say, oh, wind style would just kill them all or something. You know what I mean? Yeah, the good plan to do with bird for some reason. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, if to be fair to Kakuzu, like, he's up against somebody with mind, like, he doesn't know all of this necessarily, but somebody with, like, a mind transfer jutsu, somebody who's been able to, like, kill one of his hearts and stand up to multiple elemental jutsus. Like, Kakashi has countered, like, several different elemental things that he's done. He hasn't even busted out his Mangekyo yet. Choji is not perceived by the fan community to be much of a threat. Like, we don't see him as, like, not a Jonin or whatever, but he did cause Kakuzu to use his like, diamond morph that he used over his whole body. So I think Kakuzu does perceive the existing group as a threat, and already like, wants to be aware of that, and then more people show up. So he's probably, I don't know. I'm trying to give him some credit, you know. The other thing you could say is that I'm sure you're familiar with the databook statement that says like he has like the demeanor of a like the code of conduct of a samurai. Like you still see traces of that from time to time, but underneath the surface, there also belies this bloodlust and the killing instinct. And once that takes over, like he's killed all of his partners. Actually, I just learned this the other day. Apparently, one of these masks, I don't know which one, comes from one of Kakuzu's previous partners. Like the third data book says that when he killed his previous partner, he took one of the hearts for the Jongu masks. So he's he's really cold blooded, and when he gets to that point, maybe he's just like experiencing this mix of emotions of like I just want to kill and kill and kill, and also wood style. Bad memories about that. So you could make an argument that he's mentally nerfed here. I don't know that I would take that position in a debate necessarily, but still, just trying to give your boy some credit, you know. The window definitely clears the area with the puppet included. Iron Sand can do 3 through. Oh, protection. Yeah, the Iron Sand might be able to just protect against the wind. That's a good point. Kakuzu was defeated by. Yeah, oh, I read that. Sorry. The book is better translated than the internet. Yeah. Oh, do you know who is the translation an official translation? Because the last time that I went to look for it, I found there was like a fan who had translated a bunch of the books, but then I don't know if they got harassed or something, but then they like kind of disappeared. And I think it was the same guy who like translated the novelization of the Boruto movie, the last movie or something like that. Like you can find it up there, but then the person just kind of like vanished from the internet. It's really weird. Are made of wood, so just have puppet durability. I think that's a bit of an assumption. I would just like to learn more about that, I guess. Even though I can conceal the party cannot destroy metal. If the wood is destroyed, the puppet can't be used anymore. Well, a potential counter to that is that we do see, at least for his own body, I think we see Sasori like get broken apart by Sakura and then like reassemble his body in real time, right? See if I can just pull that out 1 second. I don't need the pain fight right now anyway. 70. Somewhere in here. Might be a little later in the fight. Yeah, I think this is the one that we talked about the other day. Okay, so here's Sasori coming out as a puppet. As himself. I think it's... Yeah, okay, so I think it's here, right? Like, she grabs the cable, pulls him in, punches him, breaks him apart. Rattle, rattle, rattle. All the individual pieces of him go away. There's the core, or the nucleus. Then he's pulling himself back together. And then turns around and kind of comes back into the fight. So I wonder if he can, like, why he can do that. If it's just the fact that the nucleus is... So is it just his own body has this unique ability to do that? Is it that the nucleus itself has the ability to do that? His heart over here? Or is it that he is using puppet strings from somewhere else to then reassemble it? Whichever one it is, I think will kind of determine how he would do against Kakuzu. I'm guessing it's just the heart itself, because like all these things are falling, and then the heart just goes boom, right? It's just sort of like moving on its own. So I guess that'll be like Kakuzu's challenge, is like playing whack-a-mole with his fucking heart and just like trying to pin it down as it's zooming around into different puppets and they're putting themselves back together. But I think if he can catch it, I mean, like, yeah, he'll probably break it. Okay, the Alameda was... We can seal the part. Yeah, okay. Hidden Rage. Yeah, the Hidden Range under the surface. Yeah, I wonder, like, if Kakuzu, like, somehow managed to steal the hearts from other people, like, I don't know, Kisame and stuff like that. Like, would he get access to Kisame's, would Samehara like get along with him because he sensed Kisame's chakra inside him, and then he would just get that ability and like go around like gobbling up like Pac-Man or something, you know, just getting stronger and stronger, picking up other more and more powerful hearts from other Akatsuki members. The books are always better. Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to spend more time reading them. I've only ever like looked things up when I needed it for a debate, honestly. So I think I should probably like actually just take the time to read them casually as well. Orochimaru left and want to be killed by Akatsuki. They don't want to kill him. Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm not sure what you're saying. You're saying that Orochimaru left and he wants... So when Orochimaru left, he wanted like Naruto and all them to potentially kill off some Akatsuki members for them. So he was like still had a grudge against the Akatsuki. And you're saying that Kakuzu didn't? Which would make sense. I mean, Kakuzu was very pragmatic. It goes to Sasori when his third was destroyed, his strongest puppet beside him, he couldn't be used anymore. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so it's the heart that's kind of like jumping around and surviving. Only chakra nature. You think he just the Samehara wouldn't like the taste of his chakra, or like the way that it tasted? That's probably true. Oh, and the Akatsuki wants to kill him. Yes, that's a good point. But okay, well then, did Kakuzu ever leave the Akatsuki? I thought he was pretty much loyal to the Akatsuki the whole time, because he was just in it for the money, basically. But let me skim over some of the other comments that you made. Thank you again for writing up all this. I appreciate it. So yeah, if I'm being mean, or if I'm being like aggressive in a debate, I could just say Kakuzu dumb, Kakuzu do is stupid. But if I'm being, a little bit more, I don't know, like trying to look for different opportunities, I would say that there's a lot of things that can happen over the course of the battle. Kakuzu is a human with emotions, and even though he suppresses them sometimes, he's not like immune to potentially getting what do you call it, like just having different emotional states and being in different mental states. That's normal, right? Dog section. All the things you say to the dog applies to Kakuzu. He was in base and wasn't dismembered. There's no blood from him as well. Oh yeah, we have no evidence his internal organs were destroyed. His physical heart survived. He could move. I don't know for sure. Well, that's the thing that's tricky. Like, I agree with you, like on the surface, but if you actually were given the assignment, like the homework assignment, prove to me, like scientifically or whatever, that Kakuzu took 0 damage. The only real evidence that we have is that after the fight, his cloak was intact, and he didn't say that he took damage. But I don't think this happened, right? But if he lost 3 of his hearts and just didn't tell us and just got a new jacket, right? I don't think that's what happened. But if that were the case, then we would have the same amount of evidence, because we're not being told what happened since the last time we saw him on panel. Now, I think you would have to go back and like look through the progress of the scene, but I think they go directly there from there to go fight Team Asuma. Oh, no, because they go to the fire temple, right? They go to get Chiriku at the fire temple. So he could have lost hearts and then gone to the fire temple and got some more. And so since we don't know, it's like, when it comes to a debate, I think you need more proof. But between you and me, like casually, like sure, I don't know. He could have avoided taking damage that fight. That is also feasible. I also like the idea. This is, I guess, headcanon, slightly, but maybe not. I should stop saying headcanon when it's just like an interpretation that could be valid. Want to see what Hidan says to Kakuzu when they first fight Yugito. Okay, before I do anything... Oh, wait, no. It's here, isn't it? Oh, I hate it when it flicks up like that, sorry. Okay. Then again, my speed is the slowest, so my aims I probably couldn't do from the Akatsuki. Okay, here we go, right? So, Kakuzu says, she's all yours, right? That's just one line of dialogue, so there's not a whole lot to go off of there. But then he says, me, you're usually the doer. She's a Jinchuuriki host of 2 tails. Be careful, okay? So let's just keep that in mind for a second and look at how they talk to each other. So before I do it, sorry, let's do it. Okay, now let's do it could imply that he's going to participate. But then Hidan says, before I do anything, I must confer with my kami. Okay. So he's basically just getting, oh, I need to remember this for later for the paper bombs too. So, oh yeah, here we go, right? Well, now, swear to kill me. You know, when people say testing to me, I get irritated. Okay, so Kakuzu is telling him to shut up and stop yapping. And then he says, enough, Hidan, the mission is absolute, right? So he's being very strict. And then, I love this as well. But he sees, so at this point, he's said to Hidan, hey, you need to do this. Like, you go take care of this yourself. Then he said, let's do it. But then he said, the mission is absolute. These are the things I kind of want to keep in mind. And then he gets pushed into the ground, right? Then we see Hidan on his own. And then the next time we see them, Yugito's already dead. Kakuzu is apparently not wounded, apparently not injured. He's just chilling and reading a book. So we don't know what happened over the course of this fight. Not a whole lot is actually given to us. We do see that Hidan appears to be a little bit wounded, but we don't know if that's from his fight with Yugito as much as it is from the ritual and what he's doing himself. I like the interpretation that given the fact that every one of the Akatsuki members has to have a quota of 1 Biju that they need to bring in, and that they then go look for the next Jinchuuriki, they go look for Naruto after this, that Kakuzu tells Hidan to fight, and then basically once he gets pushed into the ground, he just stays there. He's like, well, screw this. I'm gonna let Hidan do it. He's got to fill his quota. He can just deal with it. Now, obviously, I think he'll come in and help Hidan if it gets too bad. Like, obviously, we see that happen elsewhere during the Asuma fight. But I also kind of like the idea that Kakuzu is just like, you know what, this guy's such an idiot. He won't stop talking. I'm just gonna let him fight on his own. I gotta catch up on some comments. Yeah, sensory type and Kakuzu have a nasty chakra. Yeah, that's a very good point. He does have a nasty chakra, right? She does mention that. Good point. Kakuzu kills a Katsuki member and nobody's against him. Yep. Yeah, that's true. He'll just like rip through anybody in his way. Kakuzu don't take shitty hearts, and Chiriko was intact, so he didn't take the strongest heart in the fire temple. I think that's a bit of an assumption. That is a good point though, that he didn't take Chiriko's heart. That kind of goes along with the mission is absolute thing, right? Like, even if he wants Chiriko's heart, or like he thinks it's strong, he's not going to compromise the mission and compromise his payday by like ruining the body. So that's a very good point. I think it is an assumption just to say that the other like fire temple monks are total fodder or whatever. But also we don't have any evidence necessarily showing us that they're great or anything. So I mean, it's fair. I see where you're coming from. Just a mountain was destroyed, and in the anime they caught the seven tails. Yeah, I need to go watch that anime episode. I don't know if it fits, like if it lines up. Do you with what we see in the manga? Do you know offhand, like, does it actually show their fight with the seven tails? Like, does Kakuzu have any feats that kind of demonstrate, that kind of reinforce some of the arguments that have been made about him, or is it just like a total non-canon, like total fantasy kind of thing? They're weaker than Chiriku though. Yeah, they are. But I mean, that's not, Chiriku is really strong apparently. So strong within the Naruto universe, maybe not strong for power scaling purposes. So being weaker than him is not. How can I put this? When Kakuzu is during the war arc, right? He takes the hearts of a bunch of like quote unquote random fodder shinobi. Like, we don't know anything about them. So I could just say that, like, well, they're at the fire temple with one of the Guardian Shinobi 12. He needs a few hearts. He can just grab something like that, right? But you're right. We don't know how strong they are, and I don't really like want to die on that hill, so to speak. My main point was more just like, I kind of feel like in the context of a debate, if you were to make the positive claim Kakuzu took no damage from Yugito, that is difficult to prove in a debate. If you personally believe that, that is okay. Like, I don't feel the need to argue with you about that. That's totally fine. but there are other interpretations and other readings of the scene. And I think there's room for creativity in how we talk about it, if that makes sense. Yeah. Oh, it's from a filler when Neji turned Jonin. Oh, okay. No fight just implied. Oh, okay. That's a shame. See, I know that not everybody considers the anime to be canon. And I also don't consider it to be part of the same canon with the manga. Like, if they contradict each other, I go with the manga. But at the same time, a lot of times, people will, the animators will obviously, like, take cues from the manga, and when they're, like, converting a scene, sometimes by watching the way that things are colored and animated and stuff like that, you can get more information on the intention of the author, I feel like. Granted, there's limits to that. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen the Pain fight in the anime, but it's like fucking ridiculous. It's very, very different. I loved it. Like, I really, really enjoyed it when I first saw it, but also it's very, very different from what we see in the manga. It's not at all lined up, if that makes sense. Let's see. What's stopping debaters from agreeing that the fireball she made can be amped even more? Oh, the this one, the Bon Hoka, the cat flaming roaring fire, whatever it's called. I don't know that they even really talk about it very much. I think maybe I got this wrong, but when I first listened to Parrot versus Swag, I thought that he was calling this a Biju bomb because it was coming out of her mouth, and then I think that was just my mistake. Like, I figured out afterwards, okay, no, just coming from the mouth doesn't mean it's a Biju bomb. Between you and me, I think, well, I don't know. I would like to say that Sasuke, so like when Sasuke does a fireball jutsu, right? Like, the more power that he puts into it, the more chakra that he puts into it, the bigger the fireball will get. But there should be an upper limit to like how much heat he can have in front of his face and how big the fireball can be, how much chakra he can mold and produce and hold in his chest and then release, right? All of these things have limits. Even as an Edo Tensei, right? Like, when the Edo Tensei generate like water jutsu or whatever, they have to mold the chakra, hold it, and then release it. And there's a set amount, even though they have infinite stamina and regeneration, there's a set amount of energy that they can hold and then channel into a jutsu. And so I don't know that people in a debate would be like, here is my definitive proof that Yugito cannot physically make something larger than this. I don't think they would say this is the provable max size that she can ever possibly use. But I think when you're scaling Yugito, all you can do is go off of the best feats that she has, unless somebody says, like Hidan says, I feel like this cat is only fighting at 10% of its max power. I bet that fireball could be like so much bigger. Then we can be like, oh, okay. So now we have some evidence the author is communicating to us through this character that this is much weaker than its max. But without something like that, all we know is that Yugito did a fireball of this size and it had this effect. That is our piece of evidence. Going from that to extrapolate how much bigger or smaller it could have been, we don't know. In the same way that, like, when Swag and Noodles were talking about the Amaterasu, I think it was Noodles who said that, like, not all the Amaterasu are created equal, so Itachi could just create, like, 10 or 20, like, tiny little Amaterasu and have more uses of them. But do we ever see him do that? Like, we see him incinerate his crow with one, but apart from that, is it really fair to say that he can just scale the Amaterasu to whatever arbitrary size? Or is there a consistent size at which it is used? Is there a minimum and maximum size? And we can only can't really know for sure, but we can go off of the data that we have available, right? Let me see if I can actually find that, because it's significantly smaller. Okay. Yeah, so if we look here, when he does the Amaterasu initially, it looks like he's doing 2 casts on the dog's head, and these are really big and they spread really quickly. He turns around, and this one looks like it's much smaller, and it kind of hits Nagato and then hits the bird. And then when he does it on the crow, I think it's literally just like hanging out on his shoulder, and he like doesn't it's not a big deal. I can't find it in the next like 10 seconds. I'll probably skip to the next thing, but oh yeah, there it is. Kind of following them. But yeah, hopefully you see what I mean, right? Like in this instance, we do have an example of a jutsu that can be kind of scaled in a variety of different ways. Yeah, like this is obviously like much smaller than whatever hits the dog. So now we have several examples of Itachi using the same jutsu to different extents, different sizes. Compare that to our 1 feat for Yugito. Unfortunately, we just have the one to go off of. There's no visual reference that Kakuzu was damaged. That's why I say that. Yeah, exactly. So then it becomes like the lack of evidence for isn't evidence against, if that makes sense. But it's also not evidence for. So it gets kind of messy. You can see the fireball melting the rock where Hidan hides. Let me take a look at that. Yeah. Oh, you think? Oh, that's interesting. So you think that these like ice cream cone looking melty globs here are the rock melting? It could be. I wonder though, like, it doesn't seem like her ability is like having the same effect on everything else. Why is it just melting that rock and actually, you know what? I don't know if it's official, but actually I'm gonna be slightly hypocritical here, like, because I am skeptical. I've said before that I don't know for sure if these are official colorations, so I would be careful about using these in a debate, or like insisting that they're fully accurate. I went way too far ahead. Sorry, 1 second. It's 313, right? Yeah, okay. I'll just do it from here. I don't know why I'm wasting time with that. So 313. I'm so programmed to go to like 330 or 340 for other things. 313. There we go. Okay, so let's scroll down and see how this is represented. Love this. Love this coloration. I love the heterochromia here too. It's awesome. Okay, so here's the cat flame fire thing. Oh yeah, here we go. I thought I saw that. So you're right. At least, so I know some people say this is the official Viz coloration or whatnot. I don't know if that's true because it's I have not been able to find this on the Viz website, and excuse me, and also you'll notice that like the sound effects aren't fully translated. They're kind of like written over. So I'm not sure if this is canon or whatever, but for whatever reason, the person who is, or team that is very clearly dedicated to making this look good, decided to represent this as a glob of like molten magma, essentially. So yes, I think that this is fair. Yeah, yes, exactly. Yep. I went to Japan a little while ago, and my Japanese is terrible, but like there's a term, I think it's nekojita, which means cat tongue, and it specifically refers to people who are sensitive to hot food. So like if you like don't start eating your food right away, or you want to order like a less piping hot drink or something, you could just say like you're nekojita. And I don't know if you should actually do it or if it's like cringy for a foreigner to say that or whatever. It's like local slang, but I've heard that that's what that means, and I think that this is probably Hidan referencing that same thing. Anyway, yeah, makes sense. Okay, so with that being said, let me see if there's any other things I can respond to quickly. Oh, dog section, physically Kakuzu was fine. The poison self-destruction for him. Yeah, I do think he is. So this is something that's relevant for the Sasori fight as well. Is that, remember when Raido, I think we talked about this, last time. Forgive me if I don't like go find it right now. It might take me a few minutes, but if you remember when Raido shows up to reinforce Team Asuma, he attacks Kakuzu with Ebony Blade, and in the third data book, it's specified that Ebony Blade is not just oh man, it's not just a black blade. It's also like a it's coated in poison, right? So it's a heavily poisoned blade, and as a result, Kakuzu sees it and recognizes what it is. He says "Ebony Blade!" exclamation mark, and he chooses to use Diamond Morph because he doesn't want to get hit by it, basically. So to my interpretation, that's him saying, "I am vulnerable to poison. I do not want to get hit by that poison." And then we have Tsunade telling us that the whatchamacallit, that the Rasen Shuriken also functions like a poison. Now, obviously, that's a metaphor. Doesn't mean it's literally poison. But we do have two instances where Kakuzu is like either vulnerable to or doesn't want to interact with something that he perceives to be poisonous. To me, I think that's enough, like personally, to say he's probably going to have a similar response to Sasori, and he's not going to want to get hit by his poison blades and stuff. And so I think he'll be using Diamond Morph to kind of protect himself and not risk getting poisoned. And that might result in him then, whatchamacallit, not being able to move as much or having to play defense. Also, we don't see it here specifically, but this panel gets used later. Like, we see this specific panel used when Shikamaru tells us, or is like figuring out how Diamond Morph works, as an example of Kakuzu hardening his skin. And I think it might be in the third data book as well. So here Kakuzu is hardening his skin while he has Jungu tentacles deployed. So he can use Diamond Morph and Jungu simultaneously. I wonder if that's relevant for our conversation before about like whether or not he lost his Earth Heart or whatnot. Because I think I said like, okay, maybe when he has the tentacles out, then he can't like use Diamond Morph or whatever. Maybe he just can't use them on the parts of his body that are detached. Maybe he can just like use it on his core or something. But anyway, like he can use both jutsu simultaneously, so that's interesting. I don't know what the blade itself is made out of, but the databook does say it's poisonous. It's weird that they don't say it in the manga itself. But yeah, it is like coated in a thick poison, I think is what it says. Yeah, exactly. I think he only needs to do the hand sign when he whatchamacallit, when he does the version that covers his whole body, like when he blocks Joji. I don't think he got hit by Raikiri because he's slow. I guess I would ask you to define slow. Obviously that's subjective. But so there's sort of two sides to this. On the one hand, right, he was backpedaling from Hidan and just sort of like barely staying ahead of him and going back towards the tree. So you could look at that and say, well, Hidan is the slowest Akatsuki member and he was like just keeping up with him. But then, you know, we go back to the swag argument that like, well, Shikamaru, or was it Noodles, that Shikamaru was the one who was puppeting Hidan, so can we prove that he was moving at Hidan's normal base speed, or was Shikamaru like increasing his speed, right? But either way, Kakuzu was hopping backward away from him, and as a result, he got pressed up against the tree and then surprised by Kakashi. Now, I would say that that's more of a perception blitz, because Kakashi, like Hidan specifically said, like, I didn't even hear you approaching, right? So it's not like Kakuzu was aware of it and saw it coming and then just didn't have time to react. Kakuzu got pressed up against the tree, right? And keep in mind also that it's interesting that he's choosing to dodge these blades as opposed to, like, I don't know, using Diamond Morph to break them or whatever. Maybe he doesn't want to deprive Hidan of the weapon. But he goes up against the tree, and now Choji comes in. And I wonder if Choji here is more just like trying to get both of them at the same time. But either way, Kakuzu... Oh, yeah, he's going for Kakuzu specifically. Does nothing to him. Right? Gets pushed back. And then here Kakuzu is standing by the tree, totally hardened up. He's got some jutsu. Yeah, oh, here's the panel I was talking about, right? Hardening his skin. So that's how we know he used it in that panel. Virtually useless against me. Okay. And now he only notices Kakashi's approach with the shunk, like at the moment he gets hit. And you see his eyes are like wide open in shock. So it's more of it is a speed blitz, but it's also a perception blitz because how I didn't even sense your approach, right? So yeah, he was off guarded. Yeah, he didn't sense it, couldn't react, and his own lightning style counter got the same technique. Yeah, Kakuzu had jumping feats. He does when he goes into the like all tentacles out mode later on. He does have a pretty big jumping feat that everybody seems impressed by. Kakuzu was moving him backward, and all the hearts gathered in him. Slowest form. I know people have said that when he transforms into his all like tentacles out mode, that means that he's the strongest and fastest because he has the most chakra, and I think that's probably fine depending on what you mean by speed. Like if you're talking about his ability to run around and I don't know, win a foot race against somebody, maybe not. Maybe having all those big floppy tentacles going all over the place might not be as ergonomic, so to speak. And it does kind of rely on the assumption that just having more chakra makes you stronger and faster just at a baseline, which I think is fine. I think at a certain point in the series, that assumption just usually works fine. But also, you know, it's a bit hand-wavy, so not everybody's going to be convinced by it, I guess. Again, like, I don't know if this is official coloration, but we've got fire, we've got... this is the lightning one, right? And then this is the wind one. So if this were the earth one, I guess I would expect to see it be either green or brown colored, and they chose to color it blue. So again, don't know if that's an official choice per se. This one is also blue, but we know what this one does. So yeah. Anyway. So it's not by surprise. It wasn't in his favor anyway. I think it is by surprise, yeah, because he didn't perceive it at all, right? He had no idea that Kakashi was even there. So I think it's fair to say it was by surprise. People say that because Kakashi says he's fast, suggesting he is faster before. Yeah, I think in that instance too, though, Kakashi's saying that in response to his tentacles kind of whipping out to grab him, if I'm remembering correctly. So isn't it like when he gets hot? One sec. Because this is the thing that that can make debates on this subject kind of difficult, because you'll look at a statement like he's fast and the temptation is to be like, okay, this character has just done some scaling for us, right? Character A said character B is super fast, therefore he's super fast, and it would be nice to be able to just do that. But the problem comes in when we start okay, so like here, right? Some people will say that Kakashi got speed blitzed here, but is that really a complete explanation? Is that an explanation you find satisfying? Look at everything that's going on here, right? We got a fire jutsu coming in this direction, water jutsu coming from Kakashi in this direction, then this wall of steam and smoke that's in between, and Kakashi is like recovering from that. I wonder, you see this little thwip here when he's reaching up to his eye? I wonder if he's like considering reactivating his Sharingan or something there, but I'm just speculating. Anyway, I think this is Kakuzu, right? Like he dashes through the smoke, comes up, and then grabs Kakashi from behind and slams him down. So some people will say, oh, Kakuzu is just overall faster than Kakashi. Kakuzu speed blitzed Kakashi. I don't think that that's fair. I think that it's more accurate to say that Kakuzu used a smoke screen and flanked Kakashi and then used his tentacles to grab him and bring him down. If you guys have ever like used a whip before, you'll know that you can, the end of the whip is moving way faster, excuse me, than your wrist is. And that's why it makes the crack, right? Because as you fling it, the motion is kind of carried down towards the end of the whip, and then it snaps back. And the speed at which it's moving, I think you're hearing a little sonic boom, right? You're hearing the tip of the whip break the sound barrier. Now, obviously, I don't think this is supersonic necessarily, but he is getting grabbed by a weapon extension, which is different from just a straight up speed blitz. Now, let's look at the second instance, which is coming right up, which is where, after all this, it's right after this. So, okay, here we go. Right. So let's think about what's happened here. The last time we see Kakuzu, he's now. This is a little weird because Choji tries to do his like big slap and hit the two hearts that are coming in and smash them into the ground, but they manage to get away and they fly back over to Kakuzu. But Kakuzu is standing right next to them, right? He's like maybe 10 feet away from Kakashi, if that. He's right there. And it actually looks like they've shifted positions a little. The perspective is a little weird, but he's really close, okay? And he's got all these tentacles out. And what happens in the next scene is that we just see that he's reached out with his tentacles and grabbed them. So he hasn't moved. He hasn't repositioned. He hasn't run or jumped or anything like that. He literally just lashes out with all these gooey black threads. And that's what Kakashi is responding to. Now, does this mean that he's not fast, that this doesn't count? No, it counts. It's him moving and it's his speed, but it's his like whip throw speed, not his movement speed. I don't think you can look at Kakashi just saying he's fast and use that to scale Kakuzu's movement speed, if that makes sense. Meaning, like, the speed at which he, like, runs and walks and jumps around. That sort of thing. Now, hopefully that was helpful. Turtle, lion, Taurus, eagle. Oh, yeah, yeah. He had all those big hearts in him. Yep. 2 exclamation marks usually indicate you've been awareness of something. Yeah, that's true. And usually, yeah, like right here, right? It can be being startled or being surprised or something. And also the, what do you call it? The speech bubble, or reaction bubble, whatever it is also usually like a little jagged. It has like points on it to kind of indicate that it's, more of a dramatic thing or a loud thing. 2 exclamation marks. It was because he suffered instant damage by surprise. Yeah, probably. He doesn't seem to flank, but you can just argue Kakashi can't fly. That is, he can't fly. That's true. Although he did suspend himself in the air. It kind of looked like with the water jutsu thing, right? Like he was, yeah, here. Like he's not flying, but I wonder if we're supposed to infer that the jet of water is like helping him keep momentum in the air or something like that. I don't know. Doesn't suggest he's doing it so in the state of being pierced. Yeah, that's true. They evaded our tank. Nobody could stop them from going to Kakuzu's body, which is an interesting argument to me. Yeah, that is true. Like, they didn't go up to him, right? He just kind of stood there, and he, like, lashed out with his tentacles and caught them, and they didn't manage to, like, Kakashi didn't manage to get to him and, speed blitz him with another Raikiri. And it's kind of funny that, like, oh, well, here's another speed feat. I mean, we kind of already talked about it, right? I don't know how fast you think Choji is, but these two hearts were able to outmaneuver Choji, slamming them. Like, Choji saw, I don't know what the term for this is, but he saw them coming, right? He saw the trajectory that they were going on. He saw what speed they were going on. He tried to intercept them, and he failed. They still managed to get past him and get into Kakuzu's hearts. Get back into Kakuzu, rather. So that's a speed feat for Kakuzu's hearts. Now, where does Choji's super slap scale to? Don't know, but it's something. It's worth noticing. Let's see. Attack speed. Look at this. Yeah, attack speed, that would work. Look at Kakashi's face, and people say Kakashi would GG easy with Mangekyo. Oh, over here. Yeah. So this is a good point. I think that what Kakashi is responding to here is Kakuzu's jutsu, right? That seems intuitive. He thinks he's gonna get hit. Do you think there's a chance that he could actually be responding to this? That he could have sensed Naruto and Yamato coming in and sensed that this jutsu was about to be cast? Because it does kind of like cover them up, and it like intercepts Kakuzu's fire and gives him a smoke screen. Could he have been anticipating that coming in? Does he say anything after that that gives us that? Perfect timing, actually. He seems relieved, so I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. I think I'm reaching for Kakashi here. Let's see. Yeah, so for the people who say that he could just Kamui GG easy, let's do our due diligence real quick and go look at the pain fight. Let's see. Is this it? This might be a little too far. Here we go. Is he dead already here? Yeah, I think so. Oh no, he's not. Okay. So here Kakashi is in a similar, vaguely similar position, right? He's wounded, he's tired, he's used multiple jutsu. He's pinned, and I guess he can't move because he's like under the rubble. And here the Asura Path fires off a missile at Choji, and he sees this happening. He's obviously very upset, very distraught. This is at a distance, but he's able to, knowing that it'll kill him, he's able to see this missile, this fast-moving projectile, focus on it and get it out of the way and save Choji's life. And that's the second time that he's used the Kamui in this fight. The first time being, again, after being like using multiple jutsu. I think he says he's used up half of his chakra at some point in here after using all of that. And then Pain uses the nail. This is Nagato using a Shinra Tensei, and he still manages to intercept that and survive it. I guess we don't see him actually use it, do we? We just hear about it after the fact. So with that being said, we do have a precedent of Kakashi being able to pull out a Kamui in a very difficult, so we don't actually see him do it that time. But he is able to pull out a Kamui in a very difficult, tense situation when he's at a disadvantage, like incapacitated, whatever. So I think he could do it. I don't know if it's a no diff situation, like he just like turns it on and blasts Kakuzu away. I think that's a little too much. But could he use it effectively? Could he use it in a pinch and like at the last second to save himself? I think so. I think that's fair. Context matters, but the idea of the action being pierced is already done isn't presented. It seems like an assumption, whereas he's gaining awareness seems more viable due to the scenes. Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying you think it's more reasonable that he was not aware of the Raikiri until it pierced him, or you think he became aware of it like right at the moment when it pierced him? I'm not sure I understand. I think we're probably in agreement. Context matters is absolutely true. I think part of one of the most eye-opening things for me about like participating and listening to debates over the course of the past few years has just been comparing the statements that are said out of context to what has been like what actually has happened in the manga. And like I don't fault anybody too much for misremembering a fact or misquoting something or whatever, but I think you can see from the Weeaboo debate that a lot of the stuff that gets brought up is just kind of presented in these little squares, little panels. Like, I know it's a pain in the ass, like I am experiencing it in real time, but you kind of gotta look at things in context. And if you're sharing things publicly, to whatever extent is possible, I think it's very helpful if you can like present the full page, or even the full like chapter, because otherwise you're just getting like a tiny little snippet, and the context does matter. It's very important. Okay, let me go back to chat here. This data book about Super Slap. Oh yeah, I'd be curious to hear what the data book says. It's probably here in the book. I can look at it. Even if you could Kamui, if reinforcement wasn't in time, Kakashi would be off stamina. Well, yeah, that's a good point too. Like if depending on how much stamina he has left, he could just die. Like he might actually die. But that being said, you and I can speculate that would be the case. But also, you know, when this happens, Kakashi very clearly says, "I will certainly die." I mean, I don't know if everybody will find this argument compelling, but I think Kishimoto is pretty good at conveying when characters are in states of peril and making that very clear. So, or like life or death things. So, the fact that I'm gonna put this is the chapter in which we see Kakashi die. This is a character that is this important to us, and we see his thoughts as he's about to die, the sacrifices that he's about to be making, the calculations that he's going to be undergoing, right? This dialogue about Obito and Rin and all that. If he were actually going to stand a chance of dying, of being that close in this fight, don't you think we would have seen something like that? Obviously, like, you and I could potentially even agree that Kakashi might lose a fight to Kakuzu, even with Kamui, but we're not really seeing that level of danger and intensity depicted. So I'm skeptical that Kakashi, like, internally felt that he was out of options, if that seems fair. Maybe 2 at maximum. Yeah, he certainly doesn't get very many uses of it, right? If he used fire, he took damage, Sharingan and hand him. Yeah, for sure. Lots of different jutsu there, and powerful jutsu. And like, look, like, again, not to downplay Kakuzu, right? He's a serious threat. They've managed to take 2 of his hearts out, but it was hard pressed. It was a hard won series of victories. Nothing else that happens in the fight is going to come for free. Like, they're gonna have to earn every inch, right? So I don't think Kakashi wants to just use the jutsu unless he feels like it's gonna hit. I mean, he did use it on Deidara when Deidara was flying on the bird, and so you could look at that and argue, like, okay, well, maybe he actually would be a bit more reckless with it, but it doesn't work super great. Like, he kind of misses. So I don't think he wants to waste it, right? I think he wants to wait until he's absolutely sure. So maybe one reading of what happens here is that he's basically like, okay, I'm at the point where I'm gonna need to use the Kamui, and I'm about ready to, and if nothing else happens, I'm gonna have to do it because we're screwed. And then he's about to, but then, oh, what's this? I'm noticing something. What's this new energy or something that I'm feeling? Oh, cool, I don't have to use it after all, so I'm gonna save it. Something like that, right? Don't know if that's like facts, but I think it's a decent reading of it. Anyway. He used 4 Raikiri, took damage, Sharingan, hard time, water jutsu. Yeah, Kakashi used 6 Raikiri in the Kakuzu fight. Did he use 6? When did he use 6? I know he used 1 on the tree. He used 1 to break Naruto free. He used 1 on, like, 2 to block false darkness. That's 4. Where are the other 2? You might be right. I think he isn't showing awareness for the Raikiri just being stabbed through a more like time window before it hits him. It's tough to tell with these panels because obviously, you know, that we're seeing things in snapshots, not in real time. It's unfortunate, for your argument, it's just unfortunate that we see him get pierced with that sound effect at the same time. It like, to my interpretation, it really does feel like we're being told that he's only becoming aware of it the moment it hits. Like, again, I don't really need to die on this hill or anything. It's not I'm not saying your interpretation is invalid. Just the way that it seems to me is that we don't he's becoming he's talking to Hidan right here. Hidan's finishing his sentence, and then 3 things happen. He gets this little spike thing, which is usually, I think you might have said this before, is usually something that people get when they become surprised or suddenly aware of something. He gets the 2 exclamation marks with the spiky border, which again reinforces that, and the Shashunk shathunk happens at the same time, and we also have the lines in the background that kind of indicate, like, that tends to happen in dramatic moments as well. So the way this is presented to me personally, it seems to me like all of this is happening at once, right? He's got the shathunk, and then because of that, he has an impact reaction, and then like a cognitive reaction, and this is all happening in like in a still shot, which is why we get the dramatic like action moment background there. So I don't think, and then with this statement, I don't think he noticed it until it was too late, basically. He's used one after the Russian Shuriken failed and one more after Kakuzu's disabled. Oh yeah, at the very end when he like finally kills him. You're right. Good call. If Hidan wasn't there, Kakuzu would have finished the fight with only one loss. And because it was off guarded, they managed to get Zero for you. Well, I don't buy it personally. That's fine. So this is something I might actually do a whole video on later. So I don't want to like spoil too much, or like a stream focused on this. But one of the funniest things that Noodle said in the debate with Weeaboo was he said that if you I'm sorry, I'm about to slander your boy. I apologize in advance. If Kakuzu showed up in the Leaf Village in Pain's place, like you swapped him out for Pain, that Kakuzu could have soloed the entire Leaf Village on his own. And part of the reason why I disagree with that is that Hidan and Kakuzu together fought against Team Kakashi, including Shikamaru, Choji, and Ino, and the result of that matchup was that Kakuzu lost 2 of his hearts, and that Hidan fucking died, like effectively. He's not literally dead, but you know, he got like disassembled. Now granted, they were put on the ropes towards the end, like Kakashi's team were put in the ropes, but when that happened, Shikamaru, who's probably the most competent of their trio, was off fighting Hidan. So imagine how this fight would have gone if Hidan was never there, if he never posed a threat, they never needed to worry about the blood or whatever. Shikamaru didn't have to leave, he didn't have to split up his focus, and it was just these 3 against Kakuzu. I think they probably could have done it, especially with Shikamaru's genius, and, you know, if he had laid that same kind of trap that he laid for Hidan, but had just done something similar for Kakuzu, then I think they would have been fine. Well, I say fine. I don't think that it would have gotten off scot-free. Obviously, Shikamaru, like, using Hidan to kill one of Kakuzu's hearts gave them an advantage. But I think Shikamaru being absent from the fight also put them at a disadvantage as well. So I think it semi-balances out. I think they still would have gotten hurt. I think Kakuzu still would have fought back and it would have been tough. But I think they probably could have done it. So add Ino Shikacho's parents to that, add Tsunade to that, add like the Aburame clan, add like Kiba and his folks, add the like Hinata and Shizune and whoever else, right? You might think those characters are individually not all that impressive or whatever, but considering the effectiveness of this small squad against Kakuzu and add in all those characters, I mean, unless Kakuzu is going and like collecting extra hearts for 1 lives over and over again, or for extra lives when collecting extra hearts for extra lives over and over again, then yeah, I think he's he probably wouldn't make it too far in the whole village, personally. To save Naruto from Kakuzu. Oh yeah, he doesn't, you know, for Kakuzu. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Hidan is one of those characters where it's like all or nothing, right? Like the moment he gets the blood, it's an instant. As long as he doesn't like act like an idiot, it's a very quick and very thorough and painful death. He's a huge threat, but he has to actually get that, and depending on the caliber of enemy you're going up against, this is where the power creep in Shippuden actually starts to be a bit of a problem, because Hidan, like, in a world of shinobi, of people who fight with, like, you know, in the Asuma fight, they were fighting with those little chakra blades and stuff, and Naruto was like, wow, that's so cool, you're teaching me about wind style, that's an awesome weapon. It's like iron knuckles, or what do you call them, like brass knuckles, but it's got like a spike on it. Wow, And like we as readers, I'm sure we're like, yes, this is a very cool and dangerous and threatening weapon. A little thing with a little spike on it, right? The series, this was only like chapter 3, 320, 330, right? There are people still going around with metal weapons, and that was enough to be threatening. Asuma is one of the Guardian Shinobi 12, and so one of the people who guarded the Hokage. So narratively, he's one of the elite members of his village. He's one of the best shinobi in a village full of like trained assassins, narratively speaking. In terms of his feats, in terms of power scaling, in terms of the power creep compared to shit like, I don't know, chapter 600 forward in the war arc, he is really, really unimpressive. But at this point in the series, given that the elite shinobi are people who fight with like low grade fire jutsu and blades and like chakra blades and stuff like that, and do shit like this, you know, this is one of the most experienced shinobi in the village, one of the elites, and he's just throwing little shuriken. He's just throwing little metal pellets at this guy, and he thinks it's potentially going to be effective. These guys, they just have like big scissors, right? None of what's happening here is anywhere remotely related to the crazy shit we say later in the series. They thought this was enough to kill him. He fights with a scythe. He doesn't fight with any kind of like huge chakra cannons or whatever. So what I'm trying to say with this tangent is just that, yes, Hidan is like completely horrifically unimpressive when compared to like Kisame. Like, he's on a completely different tier. Against Itachi, against Pain, it's just not even like not even a comparison whatsoever. But at this point in the series, for characters that are grounded with this ability set before that power creep, he's not fodder, right? Like, he's not just like narratively in the world, he's not just some dumb asshole who hangs out with somebody stronger and better than him. He was chosen for this duo for a specific reason. It's a shame that like the power creep made some of these characters who were genuinely terrifying, genuine threats, to be so completely irrelevant. But at this point in time, he was a serious threat. He's going up against one of the elite Jonin in Konoha. Like, that's a feat, right? Until it gets erased by the later stuff. Okay, time to catch up a little bit here. Kakashi was the strongest ninja besides arguably Tsunade, and from what we've seen, when Kakuzu fought Kakashi with his hearts, he was defeated in 3 pages. I think I disagree with that, because Kakashi hadn't used the Kamui yet. Be happy to go into that more. I have to think about that some more. But I think my point is more that like Inoshika Cho plus Kakashi were enough to press him while he had backup and while Shikamaru went away for a while. If Shikamaru had stayed and he hadn't had backup, and then he had like 20 other people with him, as long as any of those people were like marginally competent, then Kakuzu would be in a really difficult position. And considering that some of them should be, like Shikamaru's dad, should be more skilled, more experienced versions of the people who are already fighting him. And then we got shit like Hinata, right? Like, maybe you think Hinata has no good like AP feats and she wouldn't be able to like, I don't know, destroy Kakuzu's hearts or whatever. But she has the Byakugan. So if Kakuzu starts hiding hearts underground, okay, well, she can use the Byakugan and help find those. If Gentle Fist is effective on her, then she could potentially like send chakra into the hearts, and like I don't know if this is for sure, but is there an argument that she could bypass Diamond Morph by, you know, using Gentle Fist to like attack his organs or something like that, right? Tsunade as well. If Shikamaru and his dad combined Shadow Possession and managed to like trap Hidan from multiple angles, and if there's anybody else in the village who can like, think of it this way, right? Like, let's say Choji and Choza both take a soldier pill and they get super big. They cast a big, massive shadow. And Shikamaru's dad, and like one other Nara clan member then manipulate the shadows to catch and hold Kakuzu in place. Then Tsunade and Sakura come in and punch him with the strength that was able to like punch through Sasori's Hiruko, etc., right? Like, Kakashi can then also come in with the Raikiri, etc. Once you start like breaking down how many different abilities these characters have, then it gets kind of ridiculous. Do I think that like Shino could beat Kakuzu in a 1v1? No, but if like 8 people are already like bothering Kakuzu, and then Shino puts like some bugs on him, well, it's gonna make it like even easier to keep track of him, right? It's just all these little things keep adding up, is my perspective. Not even a chapter would show the gap between them in battle. Yep, okay. Besides Kakashi, none of them can pierce his defense and hearts, flies, or land nukes. That's what he meant. Nobody could reach the flying hearts. Well, I didn't feel like he really demonstrated flight feats for the hearts. I know they jump around a little bit, and I know they do in the anime, but I have not been convinced about like how fast and how dexterously and how effectively those hearts can actually fly around. And if they're fighting like in a city with a lot of different like large buildings that have the potential to cast shadows, and again with like Byakugan users and like sensory core users and stuff like that, I think it's a little bit dicier in terms of just saying like they can solo everything on their own. Besides Kakashi, none of them can pierce his defense. Was the sorry, I already read that. Tendo almost died with Shurido in the. I actually, I strongly disagree with that. Respectfully, but yeah, I don't think that Tendo nearly died. You're talking about when Tendo and Shurido were fighting against Kakashi and Choza and all them, and then Kakashi like almost got to him with the Raikiri. I'm not convinced that the Raikiri would have killed Tendo, and more to the point, even if that were the case, how does that compare to like fighting against six paths at once, right? Let me think about that some more actually, because if Kakashi did manage to actually pierce Tendo with the Raikiri, I don't know how I would prove this just yet, but intuitively I don't necessarily have a problem with the idea that he could like pierce his chest. But also like Tendo was just kind of standing there that whole fight, right? Like he didn't do anything. He just stood there and used the Shinra Tensei. And he let the Asura Path jump in and make the attacks for him. But he could have, right? He could have chosen to engage in the fight differently. He obviously wasn't going all out. Yeah. I think this is the one you're talking about, right? Yes. Okay. Yeah, so he's figuring out his ability. Yeah, I mean, like, this entire fight, Pain just kind of, Tendo just kind of stands there and then lets Asura do some stuff. But I don't know, I don't mind the idea that, Kakashi could, like, potentially harm the what's the name of it? Not the Deva Path. Yeah, the Deva Path. And it does have this disadvantage, right? Because he has the cooldown, and Kakashi figures that out pretty quickly. I don't think he wants to get hit by this, that's for sure. Comes in with a human juggernaut, wraps him with the chains. Yeah, okay, so his motion... So you could argue, right, that his motion is restricted here, and that he's letting, like, he can't move because he's getting pulled by these people. And if that's the case, then Kakashi would have pierced him with the Raikiri. You could also argue, though, that, like, I mean, I don't know if I agree with this necessarily. I'd have to research it some more. But you could say, okay, well, why don't we, like, look at other things that Pain is capable of doing and see if it really makes sense. Like, couldn't he have just jumped if he wanted to? Did he maybe make the deliberate decision to bring the Asura Path in because it was advantageous and not because he would have died? I don't know. But if you're trying to imply from this that, like, because Kakashi's Raikiri was able to, like, potentially could have damaged Tendo, that false darkness could have damaged him as well, I guess I don't have a problem with that. I have to think about it some more. My counter argument, if this were in a debate context, my counter argument would be more like, you know, between the Predapath's absorption and Tendo's Shinra Tensei, and then the animal path being able to summon in animals to tank hits, I would be more like, how does Kakuzu hit him in the first place, as opposed to saying like it couldn't necessarily damage him, if that makes sense. Okay, gotta catch up a little bit here. Well, I think that none of them can pierce his defense in the hearts. Um, None of them can pierce his defense while he has Diamond Morph up. But if there's ways around Diamond Morph, like Gentle Fist, for example, or just like holding him in place, like I genuinely wonder, like what would happen if he got held down by Shikamaru, and what's his name, Shino, just like ran a whole bunch of bugs up through his body, like what happened with when he put the bugs in Kankuro's puppets. I don't know for sure, right? But those things eat chakra, and what would happen in that situation? What if Shino's dad joined in as well, right? What if the hearts split off, and then Kiba and Akamaru and Kiba's mom and her dog all started chasing down the hearts, right? There's a lot of different things that, even though you might not like say, like, again, like Kiba can't beat Kakuzu, I'm not saying that, right? But you put all those things together, Kakuzu gets pressed in from so many different angles that eventually I think he gets worn down, for lack of a better phrasing. Okay, let me catch up again. Yes. Multiple questions for you then. Okay, one sec. I gotta catch up. I'm gonna see if I can. The chat is like slightly inconveniently positioned. Let me see if I can fix that. I can read this better. Oh, I see the problem. Okay, sorry, I had the chat in the wrong window. Okay, so let me respond to your questions. So multiple questions for you then. How do they reach the flyings? The tuning were blitzed by the lightning mask. They barely evaded with the fire style. With enough pressure, they are cooked. I would need to think about it some more. I need to break it down. I think that the issue there is that let me look at this quickly. I want to see it in context. I think it's like 335, right? Probably have it open in another tab, but and by the way, like you're welcome to disagree with anything that I say, of course. Like, feel free to fact check all of this. Not that I need to tell you, you've been like doing a great job of challenging what I've said so far and asking questions, but yeah, like I don't want to try to make it sound like I have the only answer here. I think a lot of this is open to interpretation. But let's just kind of see like what happens, right? So this is, Hidan is still here, and so they do a combo attack, right? Kakashi is pressed by Hidan and gets attacked with wind style pressure damage, and Kakashi manages to avoid it. Now, granted, I think Kakuzu says the reason he was able to do it was because of his Sharingan, right? These guys over here aren't targeted yet, so now they are targeted. What's interesting is that Shikamaru notices this about to happen and takes out a scroll, and I think the scroll is intended to counter it, right? He's probably going to try to absorb it, like, you know how Jiraiya can put the Amaterasu in one of his sealing scrolls? I think that's probably what's going to happen. I don't know what Choji is going to do. He's going to just try and eat the attack. But thankfully, Kakashi comes in. So I think they were literally just going to try and block it, and we're probably going to get screwed. But Kakashi does come in and block it. But then after this, right, we got... So Ino was able to get out of the way. Ino wasn't affected by the lightning. And now Kakuzu tries to do his fire attack, and there's 4 of them, Ino, Shikacho, and Kakashi. And notice that, like, the fire attack is not 360 degrees as far as we can tell. It's just forward facing. And the same goes for the other 2 attacks too, right? They're forward projecting attacks. And Shikamaru, Ino, and Choji are all able to get away from it. And then Hidan kind of comes in, and Kakashi's able to respond to Hidan as well. So Hidan is playing an active role in creating distractions, in pressing Kakashi, and in following up and trying to make him vulnerable and depleting him. So now take Hidan out of this equation. That's one less thing that Kakashi, like several less things that Kakashi has to worry about. That wind style pressure damage combo attack goes away. This follow up goes away. He's not like spending stamina and chakra to have to deal with that. So I think that all matters. I think the fact that like Shikamaru and Choji were able to perceive and like mount a response to false darkness also matters. Now they didn't have a very good response, but they were like Shikamaru might have been able to catch it with that scroll of his. Presumably, I don't know what it would have done exactly. Ino was able to just get out of the way entirely, and then when the fireball jutsu shows up, they're all able to avoid. So if the three of them can do it, I think their parents can probably do it as well, as long as they're relative. And then when we start adding in like all the other people in the village, like Tsunade as well, I think it can like imagine Tsunade just gave them each like a Katsuyu slug and then dropped another one on Kakuzu's head or something like that. I don't know for sure how various characters would grab the things flying around in the air, but I would need to like actually see them flying around to see how good they are to be able to say that. But I mean, a lot of like Kakashi's able to jump pretty high. I think anybody who can use his chakra control can kind of like launch off their feet and like jump high. We see a lot of characters do that. So I don't that combined with like kunai with paper bombs attached to them or any number of ranged jutsu could potentially do it. So let's see. Endo was defeated by a base for Sengan. Wait 1 second. I think I missed something. Diamond can protect himself. The hearts can target the shadow possessor. Yeah, but if there's like 20 or 30 people there, then it becomes dicey, and we don't really see that happen here, right? Like Shikamaru is still able to get Hidan. Well, let's see what happens here. Let me be fair, right? So this is after these characters have already been pressed a bit. Shikamaru sends his shadow possession out, and Kakuzu dodges away from it, presumably to let his masks come forward. Kakashi gets in between the masks and Kakuzu and lets Shikamaru go fight Hidan. Hidan is actually pretty smart here. Like, he's pretty perceptive and like dodges these attacks. And then Shikamaru also manages to close ranks with him and pull this off. So I mean, Shikamaru can go around, and I think if he can do this to Hidan, he could probably do this to some of the masks or to to Kakuzu himself. And notice that like this entire time Kakuzu hasn't done anything for some reason. I don't know why he's just standing there. I don't know what he's doing. But he let all this play out, and Kakashi's just standing there in the middle of the three masks. They're all focused on him. That's interesting. Okay, I got a bit to catch up on here. He was cautious, a bit scared. Yeah, maybe. Oh, Pain, you were saying. Pain didn't move much because he was aware of Kakashi's tricks. I think he was actually. I think you're right. I think he was playing defense. He didn't really know what Kakashi was going to do. But also, he wanted to gather intel about Naruto. So, at one point, I think he says, like, you are going to be a nuisance with all your tricks, so I'm going to have to kill you. But he starts off the fight by saying, like, you know, tell me where the Nine Tails Jinchuuriki is or something like that, right? Is it down here? It's when he saves, what's his name? Iruka. Yeah, let's see. Okay, so this is when it starts off. So, Endo tries to kick him. He does the mud wall. He gets pierced. Right, lightning blade. Endo dodges it. So, he's actually kind of polite, right? He says, it's an honor to meet you. Tell me where is Nine Tails. So, I think he has intel enough to know probably that Kakashi is Naruto's teacher, but if not, like, he should know about, like, he knows who this guy is, and he knows that he can like get intel from him. So he's not trying to kill him. I believe he absolutely could have killed him right now if he wanted to, but he was not. So he's playing with him, he's messing with him, and then waiting for an opportunity to extract more intel. And then once he realizes this guy's gonna, like, he's actually fucking dangerous and he's got a lot of things up his sleeve, like, I can't keep doing it, I'm gonna need to get the intel from somewhere else, so I'm just gonna kill him, I think. And then he's playing it safe, right? So he's holding back and playing it safe, I believe. Let's see. Diamond can protect himself, the hearts can target. Okay, we did that. Tendo was defeated by a base Rasengan. So I've heard this before, not to be too spicy, but I do think that that is unfair because Tendo took a lot of other hits and went through a lot over the course of that fight, and then was ultimately taken down by the base Rasengan, like, after all of that, right? So including, like, off the top of my head, like, getting kicked by Sage Naruto and, like, eating that tailed beast bomb from the Six Tails, which is the tailed beast bomb from the Four Tails, pretty much killed Orochimaru. So I think it's pretty it's pretty significant. I don't know why people don't think Six Tails is impressive for whatever reason, but in addition to just like all the fighting it's been doing over the course of this battle, hasn't taken that many shots directly. But yeah, then yeah, so it's fighting. I forgot about this, right? It's like fighting all three of the large frogs here. I don't think it gets hit, but there we go. Right, it's fighting all of them. So I think it's a little reductive to say that he just got killed by a base Rasengan, right? Anyway. Honestly, I think it's just the... Let's see. You're probably right, though, in that, like, we don't see him actually, like, take many hits. The frog kata, or the, Sage mode kick... Oh, you know what? I forgot about it. When he uses the massive Shinra Tensei, he, like, Nagato himself... Okay, so this is interesting, right? Like, Nagato himself is clearly, like, fatigued when he uses the massive Shinra Tensei. Like, Konan warns him about it. And look, okay, Nagato, you must rest. You spent so much chakra, right? So Nagato himself is obviously, like, fatigued and not, like, super okay. Does that mean that the durability of the Deva path is compromised? On the one hand, I'd like to say that if Nagato is not doing well, then his paths would be adversely affected by that, true. On the other hand, I think the physical bodies, like the corpses or whatever, have their own, like, durability and own physical integrity that's not directly connected to Nagato. So if you go off of that scaling and you actually look at what the Tendo deals with, like, he doesn't really get hit much because he's pushing everything away with Almighty Push. So let's see what actually happens to him. He pushes back Six Tails Naruto, and then the recoil of his own ability sends him back. So to this point, I think he's only gotten hit by the one kick from Sage Mode Naruto. So one kick, one punch, and then here comes the Six Tails Beast Bomb. And so it's not shot directly at him. What happens is he uses Almighty Pull, or Universal Pull, Banjo Tenin, to try and smash Naruto himself. And it smashes him off to the left, and then the bomb just falls down on the ground. So it falls on the ground, like, I don't know, 10 feet away from his head, and just blows up this whole area. So he's right there in the blast. So he does take that, and he clearly doesn't like Shinra Tensei it, right? Because he's using Banjo Tenin here. So his Shinra Tensei should be on cooldown. And then he just, like, gets up from it, right? But he doesn't seem to be, like, wounded. So maybe you're right. Like, maybe there's some validity to that too. Because at the end of the day, you know, the way that the Rasengan works as well is that it, like, sends this turbulent shock wave of energy inside you, and it, like, messes you up on the inside. The Rasen Shuriken to a greater extent, right? But the Rasengan still works on a similar principle. So maybe the way to look at this is that, yes, it... Oh, wait. No, was he in... If he was in Sage mode, then it's different. Hang on. So, okay, here we go. So now he goes up to Tendo. He grabs this. Okay, so he does get another Sage mode kick in. And this is after the after the Chibaku Tensei and everything, and blasts him up against the wall. So that's the kick and the impact with the wall. Kendo gets up. Okay, and then let's see what else happens. It's tough to keep track of all this stuff too, because so much happens in this fight, even though it's only a few chapters. Okay, so he manages to defeat those two clones. Comes in with that. So Naruto. Oh, so he is actually no longer in Sage mode. Okay, and here's all these guys. Ace Naruto, Shinra Tensei pushes them away. Okay, and then this is where the Rasengan comes in, right? Interesting that he seems to be like, even though he's a corpse, he seems to be like breathing heavily. Oh yeah, he's like, ugh, like he's clearly fatigued as well. And then he gets in with the base Rasengan. Yep. Okay, so I think you're basically correct there. That like the thing that does him in, right? The thing that finalizes the fight ultimately is the base Rasengan. It's not a Senjutsu Rasengan. It's a basic one. And I think that his like internal organs are damaged by this. So it does have like this almost armor piercing effect where it like gets inside you and like messes you up. I think that's how it works. I think we see that kind of happen with Kabuto, right? The first time it's used against him, it doesn't like leave a gaping hole in his stomach or anything, but it does make him cough up blood because it's doing so much damage to his insides. So that's fine. I wouldn't say that as an anti-feat, just because Kendo's external self, like he doesn't have any big gaping wounds in his flesh or any like, after taking multiple hits from Sage Mode Naruto's Taijutsu and then having tanked that Biju Bomb, he's still like physically intact. So it's the Rasengan's like quote unquote armor piercing like internal damage ability that winds up getting him, if that makes sense. So I would say that yeah, you're basically correct, but there's also some important context to consider there. It's getting a little bit late. I'm gonna skim through your comments. I don't want to ignore what you said, but I'm gonna have to head to bed too. Well, okay, I'll just take this time then to thank you both for sticking around. I appreciate you listening to me ramble. Thank you. I hope you have a good night, man. Good luck with the job search and everything. Take care. And Kakuzu, I'm going to yeah, thanks for stopping by. It really means a lot. Good luck with everything. Kakuzu, I'm gonna read your comments real quick here, and then I'm gonna probably wrap it up. Okay, for the 5-second intervals. After Kakashi first words. Yeah. Okay. I think I addressed most of what you said, and I appreciate the questions. I know I didn't get to all of your comments on the video. Looks like I made it to here. So again, like I thank you for sharing all the information or the prompts for the discussion. I think I am gonna wrap it up because I got to start working overtime tomorrow for a couple weeks. I should be back by Sunday. I'm gonna try to commit to like once a week and do the streams on Sundays for Naruto stuff. I might try to do some gaming stuff in a little bit once things settle down. But I'll always try to schedule the stream like a day ahead of time. Yeah, I really appreciate all the questions, all the engagement. It's been super fun to chat and kind of go back and forth. I hope you have a good start to your week, a good start to the conclusion to the holidays and all that. Kakuzu and holidays, as your name implies. I think that's it for me. Thank you again. Hope you have a great night.